Okay, everyone, thank you, and welcome to tonight's episode. This is going to be episode 5 of the MesoVerse podcast. If you're new to the podcast, we talk about a variety of different things, from farming to seed saving to just general stuff that's happening out there in the world. Kind of depends on who jumps in. Everybody is welcome to come in. Tonight's show is going to mostly be about saving seeds and how you're going to deal with seed savings, and we're going to watch some videos, we're going to talk about some stuff, and we're going to get some advice from other people. So tonight's episode is brought to you by the Mavis Institute. That's my nonprofit. If you guys are interested in finding out more about the Mavis Institute, you can check out mavispharmacy.com. That'll actually bring you right to the page. You can read all about it. There's tons of free stuff on there that you can download. A lot of the stuff that we'll be talking about this evening will also be there available for you. If you'd like to help me out and you happen to be an Amazon user, if you type in smile.amazon.com before your Amazon thing, you guys can jump in, and it's called the Mavis Institute, and Amazon donates a very small portion of your purchasing to the Mavis Institute, and it's very helpful for all the programs and such that we do here. And if you don't participate in that, but you want to buy some of the junk that we have, and we have lots of silly stuff, and you happen to be an Etsy user, you can go to Mavis Hen X, and on Etsy, Mavis Hen X, that's Lisa's store. We have a variety of different things up there, mostly handmade stuff that we recycle here on the farm, and just other things like that. So if you're watching this on any place out there in the world and you want to always stay up to date with what we're doing, my main home is here on DLive. And if you are never heard of DLive before, it's dlive.tv/xDrFirefly. Jump on over into DLive. And this is where we always do our regular shows. This is where we do a lot of our chatting. And if you are interested in the Discord, you can type in !Discord. It's probably the easiest way to do that. You can type in !Discord, and it'll give you the Discord link. That should work even if you're watching this later on and you're just visiting the chat and you're watching this either on one of the other sites, specifically Twitch or DLive. You can just type that in and that will bring that up for you, and that should bring you in. So now that we got all of the boring commercial stuff out of the way, let's jump on in. We've got a handful of our friends waiting for us up in the wings, and we're going to jump up in there and see what's going on with them. So I will jump on over.
They're making...
Oh.
Hello.
Okay, sorry guys, I had to bring you all down here. So welcome tonight. Tonight we have Dematra and Golf and Mark and the Daily Mock. So,
Yay.
And Doc.
Yep, and me, of course.
And Doc.
Glad to see we got people from all corners of the planet. Some people are in darkness, some people are upside down, and
Some have
people,
a boot.
Some people can't even sit down, so.
Ta-da.
So, I guess the main thing we're going to talk about is saving seeds. But if there is anything out there that you guys think that we should also be talking about, any fun things that we should be bringing up into the mix, let me know, and we'll talk about this ahead of time. Dematra, anything in your side of the world that you'd like to bring up? Any clarification on any misinformation that's being spread about the escapades there in Oz?
It's not all of Australia that's in lockdown, but yeah, it's pretty accurate. It's pretty shit here at the moment.
Okay. Sorry to hear that. I hope it gets better soon.
I am allowed to swear, aren't I?
Yes.
On the chat.
Yes.
Yeah, sweet. Cool.
Mark, how about you? Anything dealing with silliness that's happening over in your side of the world, or?
Well, I went into a supermarket about 2 days ago for the first time in a year. Well, 2 years maybe. First time I've been in a big building with lots of stuff to buy something, and I didn't wear a mask. And most of the people in there weren't wearing a mask, and I just walked in, bought my stuff, and walked out. And nobody minded that I didn't have a mask on, and lots of other people in there didn't have a mask on. There was no sign on the door saying you had to have a mask. So, it's a completely different scenario here. It's over, basically. As far as I can tell, they're even though they're coming up and saying all this new variant's coming, nobody gives a fuck anymore, and that's it. That's what I'm saying. It's a completely different story to what Dematra's got.
Yeah, I mean that's cool, but I think more people, Mark, are interested in. Do you think that Manchester United is going to win it all?
Probably not. I think Chelsea are probably going to win the league.
Okay.
Definitely not Aston Villa.
Yeah, I know. Too bad. For those that don't follow me and Mark's got me into paying attention to British football, and so it's a lot more entertaining than I originally thought. And being an American, I still don't understand half the rules. I still for the life of me do not understand offsides. Just doesn't make sense to me. But it is definitely.
How does an offside make sense?
Because I don't know. I can't figure out when something's offside and when something
Go
is
on,
not
Dematra.
offside.
See if you can do it. See if you can do it. Go on. Try and explain it to
At
him.
the point when the ball is kicked, if the person is behind the last line of the defenders, then it's not offside. If they're past when they receive the ball, it doesn't matter. But if they're behind them when they kick when the ball is kicked, then yeah. I don't know. It's hard to explain without a graphic, but I'm sure Mark could explain it way easier.
That was it. That was correct. I mean, you can't explain it any more correctly than that.
I'll have to watch some stuff and see where the players are, where the player was kicked on when he was considered offsides and when he's not considered offside. That maybe seeing it visually will help out. So I'll have to check that out.
Don't worry about it because my girlfriend has trouble with it as well.
Oh, that's almost a slam on it.
The Americans also don't know the LBW rule as well, which I just know Dematria knows.
Yeah, I know that.
Because obviously he knows the math because he's Australian. Of course, he knows the LBW rule.
Yeah.
Anyways, I thought we'd add a little bit of fun to the mix. It's about people. How are you this evening?
Hey.
No.
If I remember
I've got a couple videos that we're gonna watch this evening about some seed savings. One is a really interesting one because it's a really interesting spin onto seed saving, and it's most of it was from a PBS. Most of this was from a PBS document. So it's going to be really interesting. So because we know there's going to be a little bit of leaning on that side and such. So again, thank you so much for the lemons and the ice cream. So we're gonna do that. I'll also play that in the Discord again. If anybody else wants to jump in and join us in the Discord, you guys are always welcome. Always welcome to do that. So I do need to get. Do need to make sure I get that set up. So the first one, we probably won't watch the whole. We probably won't watch the whole thing. We'll jump through and just pick up pieces and parts here and there.
Can you share it through Discord?
I am gonna share. I am gonna share it through Discord for those that
are cool kids.
For all the cool kids that like to watch that. Hopefully it should be better. It should be better now that I've unscrewed up the. Now that I've unscrewed up how I kicked Mark and lost the boost last time. So.
Yeah, I think we're back up to 128 kilobytes now.
Yeah. That's not what I want to do. Share. That's what I want to share. Go live. Should be there. Sweet.
It's about people. Welcome to Discord. noticed.
So again, whenever anybody wants to butt in, just let me know, and we'll pause the video as we go through it, and we're just going to talk about some stuff. I do think the first little part of this is going to be important to talk about because some of the stuff is why I pick this particular documentary that we're going to watch a little bit of it is we're going to start learning why a lot of people in the past weren't saving seeds, and then we're going to talk about why it's also important to be saving seeds, and then we'll also do some techniques like I actually brought.
I have a question.
Brought some seeds and such with us. So yes.
Aren't some plants now basically made to where they don't produce seeds no more? Like period, you have to like buy the seeds.
Some
like certain
hybrids.
types.
They're going to talk a little bit about this in the documentary, yes, but there are some hybrids that's true with. There's also some seeds that are just they make them so they're just not as viable as they could be. So these are all important things that we're going to talk about and such like that. So we will start this now. Make sure that the sound's nice and good.
In Sheridan and in Buffalo, there's a local foods kind of rumbling.
In the world of small farming, there's a movement afoot.
Without seed, there is nothing.
Small-scale farmers around the country are seeing access to one of their most vital resources shrinking.
It used to be that every farmer was saving seed, and maybe he was trading seed with his neighbors, but in general, everyone was saving seed, and now that's just not the case.
In the last 60 years, a fundamental skill has vanished from the hands of farmers.
Until probably the 1950s, there wouldn't have been a need to educate farmers about seed saving because they were all doing it. But with the growth of the agricultural industry and the seed industry, particularly after the Green Revolution, you see that seed was sort of taken out of the farmers' hands and put in the hands of seed business and seed companies.
In our modern, technology-driven era, food production has become increasingly specialized at the cost of diversity and access.
So I want to mention into this. Should have paused it there, but I want to mention into this. So as you see, they talked about the Green Revolution. They talked about how we've started really getting to the point where we've got to the point where seeds have been specialized. They did such a great job of convincing people that farming wasn't a viable field to go into. Still to this day, they talk a lot about farming not being a viable field. They do a lot to tell you how hard a farmer works, how much work it is, all this kind of stuff. They really, really shy away from trying to convince people to be farmers. And then when it comes to the seeds and such like that, they have made the equipment and they've made the fertilizers and that kind of stuff so that it's very hard to collect that as much seeds as you need. So they have made it to the point where it's easier just to buy the seeds from the same people that specialize in making the types of equipment that you're going to need.
Well, like the other day, us talking, what's one of the reasons why you don't have acreage growing?
On my family farm, we use our own fertilizer, like, manure, and we just spread it out. We mix it with some other stuff.
Some seeds are deliberately genetically modified to not produce seeds, though. Like most of the stuff that Monsanto does, they've deliberately monkeyed with that so that people can't just plant it and get harvest the seeds from it. They've done that on purpose, deliberately, and they'd admit that they've done that if you ask them. They don't hide it.
Can't you hybridize plants like that and make them produce a seed, or no?
It depends on.
Or is that just lost from them forever?
So it depends. It depends. If so, not all GE seeds and not all GMO seeds are bad. Some actually have helped humanity because of the way they've done them properly. The problem is when you introduce technology into those types of seeds and that isn't natural, and then having that seed be able to cross-pollinate with other things. So like one of the problems with like Monsanto corn seeds is with Monsanto corn seeds, if you take the Monsanto corn seeds and then you have a natural seed and they have one of their hybridized seeds and they come together, you're going to have a new version of corn. You're going to have a new version of corn, but it's always going to carry some of that Monsanto genes in there, and it
Yep.
could actually carry some of the negative parts of the Monsanto genes that you don't want.
My understanding is that pretty much like all corn seeds have got some element of GM in them now.
Yes and no.
There's no such thing as any, because GM just infiltrates everything, and it has been doing that for like 30, 40 years now. So it's not like there's any pure seeds left in it anymore.
But that being said, pure corn wasn't really what we imagine it today. Like, pure corn.
No.
If it wasn't for science and technology, we wouldn't have.
You wouldn't be able to eat it properly, really.
We've been selectively breeding it for the last 20,000 years.
Same with watermelon.
Like 20,000 years ago, we basically took like about 2,000 years to dramatically improve what was wild and made it essentially what we've got now. But we've still been changing it ever since then. Still.
Yes.
Well, here's an example.
What we're doing now is just very fast. We've never been able to bend the rules of nature as quickly as what we're able to do now. That's where we're having trouble with it.
And it's about people. When it comes to corn, there is no true heirloom corn left. Most heirloom corn has very little cross pollination into that. But I'll give a great example. I planted 3 years ago. I planted a beautiful, probably about 50 red Bloody Butcher corn. So Bloody Butcher corn is one of the oldest heirloom seeds that we can get here in Appalachia. I planted, just nice, beautiful rows. I would say 90% of the corn was a beautiful red Bloody Butcher looking corn. The problem is then there was a handful of other plants, of other corn that cropped up that turned out to be just yellow. Even though I planted a red seed into the ground, when it harvested and came out, it looked like generic dent corn. And the reason for that is because the corn up top, the little sprouts of the corn, they can go up to, on a breezy day, they can fly up to 3 miles away and cross pollinate up to 3 miles away. And because of the way wind patterns are, and so many people around just planting such, and sometimes even with your bird feeder, some of the corn that's in your bird feeder might actually be genetically modified corn. Now again, it might be not have the downfalls to the genetic modification that you don't want. Like, it might not have some of the things, but it still has part of those genes. That piece of corn falls out and starts growing under your bird feeder, and now you have a corn, and it produces that cross pollinates with one or two of your plants in your cornfield. That's why it's vitally important, if you're growing your own corn and you have some corn growing and it looks completely different, like all of those corns that were bright yellow that were supposed to be Bloody Butcher, I did not plant any of those. So I made sure all of those were used for other purposes. That way I didn't pass those select genes forward. So if you have heirlooms, and you come across, and some of your heirlooms start acting like they're not heirlooms, you make sure that you eradicate those seeds out of your heirloom mix, so we can keep our heirlooms as close to pure as it is possible in this polluted, in this gene polluted world that we currently live in. So, and I also do suggest, if someone's going to plant corn, try to buy an heirloom. Don't just generically go after the Monsanto. Try to find an heirloom, because the stronger we can keep our heirlooms, even if they may only have 1 or 2% of some of the bad Monsanto genes in it, still, if we can still keep them nice and strong and it never gets past that 1 or 2%, then we are still winning. That means that we're keeping the really bad stuff that Monsanto does out of our main corn stock. So I hope that maybe makes a clarification onto things.
It doesn't matter that it doesn't matter that it's all GM polluted, because GM's not bad. It's just some GM.
It's
just is there a bad person doing bad stuff with the GM? Yeah, some that's definitely happening. A lot of the stuff, virtually everything that Monsanto do is in that category. But just because it's a concept that we are accepting the fact that all seeds are now polluted by GM, that doesn't mean that all seeds are ruined now and that we've broken nature. It doesn't work like that.
Well, I'll put it this way. If someone makes a genetically modified version of corn and all the genes that's in that corn were just pulled from other corn plants, that's actually really good. That actually is benefiting corn. The problem occurs when somebody has a corn plant and then they start trying to pull genes from plants that the corn would never actually interact with. We start gene splicing in things. That's where the problems start occurring, because that is something new to the plant. We're not speeding up evolution at all. We are actually just we're mutating the plant in lots of bad ways, and we don't actually know what the ramifications of that's going to be in the future. They could actually be very bad. So it's best right now until we can understand this, or if they want to keep doing it in the lab and never release it out into the public, having corn grow up with corn, having corn grow up with other corn and pass corn genes, that's fine. I'm fine with corn genes being spread, because we might come up with a lot better version of corn. I really, really like peaches and cream sweet corn. I love peaches and sweet. And that was because a bunch of people throughout the course of, lot of years selectively bred corn to have that taste. Some of that might have involved, using technology to selectively breed, but not gene splicing. It's the gene splicing is where the big issue comes about with all of this. So, and I will say though, there is currently no popcorn. So popcorn is one of the few corns, because popcorn is different than a dent corn and is different than a sweet corn. There is no genetically modified popcorn because it was never cost effective to ever try to genetically modify popcorn. So, since, all we do is pop the kernels. Okay, let's go back to let's go back a little bit to the documentary and continue on.
At the cost of diversity. Hey, Yam. Are you guys not hearing anything? I will, oh, you know what? It helps if I do that. So, there we go.
Obesity.
That should fix it. Okay, that fixed it,
As
sorry.
today's industrial food system champions the cause of feeding the world, local growers are wondering, at what cost?
There is a lot of focus on let's feed the world, which, by the way, I don't really agree with. I think people should feed themselves, and to be let alone to do that. And if they need help doing something because they're going to starve.
I want to add that that actually was probably one of the best statements I've ever heard someone say about feeding the world, is that they don't want to feed the world. They want people to be able to feed themselves. Like yeah, I think that's a great concept. So, because there will always be people that are willing to grow a little bit more than to feed themselves, so they can trade that. So they can trade that to other people that have some other thing to do. Like Mark might not want to grow some food in his backyard, but his neighbor might, and his neighbor might trade, Mark mowing the lawn for them bringing Mark over some, tomatoes. So I really like that. Good concept.
Then people need to be fed. But that is not something that you have to do all the time, because it destroys the economies in other places. If you provide food from what? How many thousands of miles does the food go now?
Many argue that increased production has brought us more food, but less security.
We're not growing seeds for taste and nutrition. We are growing them for storage and transportation. And so you're getting empty calories, you're getting less nutrition, but they're beautiful. You're getting a longer store life, a longer storage life, but they're beautiful. And we're getting disease resistant. Nothing wants it. The bugs do not want it. We shouldn't either.
So there's a growing effort to take food back into our own hands.
The Campbell County Master Gardeners opened this seed library in 2016 to provide a service to our community.
I think that there's been a shift in our culture, and I think it's been really interesting to watch in terms of like younger people, millennials, looking to the past as a way to maybe find some security.
So here you can come and you can, get rid of that risk of buying seed, because here you can check out seed for free. And if it doesn't work, you're not out any money.
I mean, with the world that we're living in, with technology, all these things are very different. And I think that we find an element of security from traditions, from self-sufficiency, things that we've kind of lost over the years.
And we also wanted to do a small part to play in addressing food insecurity in our community. With some families in Gillette, money is tight, and you might not have, if you have to choose between buying groceries or buying a pack of seeds, you might not choose to buy a pack of seeds. So you can come here, check out seeds for free, and give it a go in your own garden and see if they grow and work for you.
So I want to add, most people, if they're not sure, there is actually seed libraries all over the place. If you need help finding a seed library, let me know. I usually can. I belong to the seed library here in Southern West Virginia, but I can also help you find other seed libraries around. Usually they're interconnected. You can also contact your particular area's extension office, and you can go that well. Or if you get a hold of me in, I don't know, let's say February, March, I try to mail off seeds to everyone. This year I had a really tough time. They didn't mail out but my post office was acting up. But in the past, I've been able to do things really well. So there's right here, I've got, little packets of seeds. These ones just happen to be watermelons. And so, other thing that you can do is you can contact your friends and other people that will be saving seeds and such like that, and see if they're willing to save you some seeds, and then you guys can just exchange seeds back and forth like that. So it's another thing. We're going to talk, again, that's what we're going to talk a little bit about, how to save seeds this evening, and then you can participate. And if you don't have a seed library in your particular area, then it might be something worth trying to start. It doesn't take up a lot of space. It's nothing that really is that time consuming. It's just a little basic bit of organization and a place to store some seeds.
See a lot of women, or a lot of people just in general, who are interested in canning or keeping chickens or seed saving or having a garden, and there's really something's going on in the culture that is making us look to these sorts of things. And I think that that's part of the larger sort of, with globalization and technology, it's a way to find a little bit of security.
It's not that I want Big Ag to go away. I want there to be a lot of balance, so that people like me, that are very interested in plants that are natural, not modified, that we save those things.
Traditional, unpatented, open-pollinated seeds are the starting point for many.
So then this is a black tomato, and then we've got another sort. I mean, just there's 2 drawers.
That there is attention paid to saving those things along with whatever's going on in conventional agriculture.
No one can do it all, and the way I look at it is that we need a diversity of options, as well as a diversity of varieties. So if we only have one option, and that option is to buy seed from a big agribusiness company, then we're just limiting our possibilities. What happens when that business gets bought by another one, and all of a sudden they retire the varieties that worked for Wyoming wheat growers or things like that? Then people are left in the lurch.
I know some of these Hopi black beans I've donated. These are those ones from that defunct seed company.
I think it's important to always have that diversity at every level, even at the business level.
So I want to add, if you guys aren't aware, if you saw that chart that they just posted up and they showed Bayer in one side and Monsanto in the other, well, just understand that that's actually one company now, and then a couple of those other seed companies were bought out by the Bayer Monsanto conglomerate. So there's actually even less. Yeah, there's even less and less varieties of seeds, and just as they're saying, sometimes they retire seeds, and so. You might get used to growing a particular seed, and they ultimately retire that seed. And if you haven't saved them yourselves, then that might be a seed that you don't have access to anymore, and it might just go away. So this is why saving seeds is very important for us.
I think that's a much better way and a better way for survival than it would be to become more of a monoculture in seeds.
So while seed technology has helped attain more food with less farmers, it has come at the cost of freedom and genetic diversity.
They're really good at what they do. They're really good at what they do, but they don't do everything. I think that that's what we need to remember, is that there are other markets that they're not addressing. There are growers that they're not addressing. There are research questions that they're not even asking.
What was once shaped in the hands of many is now guided by only a few.
On many levels, diversity shrivels away. So first of all, your agribusiness is not interested in small crops or crops that are important for very specific regions.
Extreme weather. I mean, yesterday it was 22 in the morning and it was 74 in the afternoon.
They're not interested in crops that are sort of outside the purview in, your Walmarts or your normal grocery stores.
We grow French fillet beans, and they're only about 2 inches long.
So you're not going to be able to find these really interesting purple carrots or these really interesting tiny green eggplants.
Well, we do have a lot of varieties. We grow just about anything you possibly can grow in Wyoming. We keep trying it anyway.
I have okra seeds. I could grow okra.
So things like that, most big agribusiness is not going to be geared toward thinking that those are interesting crops, whereas farmers are experimenters.
What we're working on is kind of winter harvesting. So these we put out, I think the 1st of April. But here we haven't done anything. And look at how, it was down to 18 here. Nothing on them but the windows. So we now know that these would be good cultivars to save seed for.
And that's the thing, is like trying to figure out as much diversity as you possibly can, figure out what's good to grow in your area. So that's one thing a lot of us, if you're new to growing seeds and you're new to this kind of stuff, it's one of the things that's really interesting to find out, is figuring out what you can grow where. And like, as you saw, they had a really awesome window box. Or a cold frame is what some people refer to those as, and certain plants will do really well, and knowing what's good in your area. But I think it's also just important to keep trying and try a large variety. So again, that's why and try in multiple years, because just because one year you don't have a good crop another year you might have a better crop. So like a great example is watermelons don't grow well here, but I finally had one year where I had a watermelon grow very well. And so since then, I try to take the seeds from that particular watermelon. I try to take that particular watermelon and try to at least get 1 or 2 watermelons off of those seeds every year. That way, that seed is getting that seed is getting acclimated to my particular area. And that's something that you can't do unless you actually save seeds.
They love to try new things, to see what's going to work, what might do better. And eaters are the same way.
Kids are great. Kids love purple peppers.
So when people see those kinds of new crops in commercial markets, or even just at the farmer's market, I think people get really excited about it.
So what we do is we're trying to broaden people's brains.
And that feedback is really important to making farmers try new varieties and say, oh, well, let's try these different crops. So that's one way that having control over your seed is going to increase biodiversity.
I don't think people realize that the whole entire historical biological time capsules in those little guys.
I just think we ought to really educate ourselves about seeds, about what they mean, about how important they are, and to have a great diversity of plants and seeds in our environment.
Well, seed is life. A seed is everything you need for it, and without seeds, we'd all starve to death.
Seed banks have been developed in response to the loss of genetic diversity.
In Svalbard in Norway, they have a seed bank. It's called ex situ. So those seeds are no longer being renewed. They are purely just storing the seed. So, Syria has been so war-torn, and their seed bank is now gone, but a lot of the seed is still in Svalbard, and hopefully when things calm down, they'll be able to re-access that. But then there are also other kinds of seed banks where really what they're doing is continuing to regenerate the seed year after year to ensure that it doesn't just die in the seed bank. Of course, the USDA germplasm system also stores a lot of seed, but they also do have a regeneration program, so they're growing out the seed. Those are really important resources for preserving germplasm and genetic diversity that can be accessed.
So that's another thing. While some seeds can definitely stay for a very long time, it is important to make sure you're always trying to improve the quality of your seed, and that's the one thing is, like, when you guys get a seed for the area that you're living in, it's really, really good to take the seed, save some of the original seed that you have if you can, but all of the seed, every generation that grows up where you're at, it's going to do better and better. So one of the things I do like to ask when I send seeds out to people is where I'm sending them to, just so I can give a little heads up, because some seeds, like here, if I grow them here in southern West Virginia and I send them to someone in Southern California, there's going to be things that seed is not going to get used to. It's not going to be acclimated to that particular thing. So sometimes you have to acclimatize your seeds. So sometimes you have to you have to let it get used to an altitude change. So like when I was trying to grow sequoia trees at one particular point, there was things that you had to do to get the sequoia to get used to a lot lower elevation, like where I'm at, and where those was a completely different elevation change. So there's lots of important things like that you have to also do, and you have to also remember. But that's why having seeds that were grown in your microenvironment in your local region, they will absolutely do the best.
We live on about 150 crops worldwide. That's it. So developing many different varieties, you keep the biodiversity alive. You want to keep biodiversity because remember the Irish potato famine. They grew a potato. It was wonderful. It was great. It was very productive. It was a hardy potato. And then it got a fungus. Because one seed didn't make it, thousands of people died or immigrated from their country.
It's really the loss of knowledge around how to steward a variety, how to make sure that that variety stays true, doesn't decrease in quality, doesn't decrease in resilience. That kind of knowledge has also been widely lost.
So today, there are groups working to restore traditional plant breeding and seed saving among small producers for the public domain.
So I think the movement really comes from farmers who want to exercise their right to save that seed. They know that that's an input. They know that it's the most important piece of what they do. Without the seed, there is no crop. A lot of the other inputs, you would still get something. You know, if you suddenly take away fertilizer, you're still going to be able to grow some kinds of crops. You're still going to be able to get something out of your land. But without seed, there is nothing.
Now, there's a revived interest in traditional seed stewardship.
There are smaller seed companies, small to mid-sized seed companies.
There are companies now that just work with saving seeds and making seeds available from the little guy that invented the mortgage lifter tomato, you know, and the, you know, crazy, you know, named things.
Seed libraries, there are seed exchanges, there's like the Indigenous Seed Network. Those folks are doing a lot of work.
Because the food security we have today still rests on the genetic diversity built by farmers through thousands of years of selective seed saving.
Thank God there are these little farmers saving seeds, because without them we would have absolutely nothing. Because you have to have an open pollinated seed to even play with when you want to hybrid it. So thank goodness that there are people that have done this all over the world.
The other people that I think we often forget about, and we really shouldn't, are the public universities. Land-grant universities were established for the purpose of increasing our knowledge about agriculture. And there are still public universities that have plant breeding programs that are in danger of losing those programs, and we need them.
So I want to add most of the land grant programs are things like places like Ohio State, Virginia Tech. Those are two that I can just think off the top of my head that were land grant universities that were purely designed for agricultural and farming. Also, though, a lot of that branch of that now falls into the extension offices. That's where you can go and be skilled to be a master gardener. That's where you can learn a lot of that kind of stuff. And so one of the things is, and I'm not sure how old this documentary is, but one of the things that the Farm Bill does actually give towards a little bit is to make sure that some of these universities and some of these programs also are doing the diversity of growing the different types of plants and keeping all that kind of stuff. So
that is where so much of the germplasm that all of the other folks who are doing breeding projects is from those universities.
These are all efforts to offset a growing trend in restrictive ownership of genetic diversity through patent overreach.
So this is all about giving it back to the people. I mean, we're basically wanting to democratize seed.
We really believe in putting seed back in the hands of farmers, making sure that they are able to exercise their rights and their responsibilities to provide and steward seed and good varieties for organic systems. We do that through research, so conducting variety trials, doing plant breeding, and also through education, so teaching people how to do these practices.
Here's our first seed experiment for this spring.
Teaching workshops on seed production.
This is just a pea patch. And here's the deal. They bloom at different times. Some are very early, some are very late, so you're not cross-pollinating at all.
Also some technical expertise to make sure that people know how many plants do you need to keep to maintain a population. How do you do the selection and roguing?
Lettuce will sometimes bolt early. And so you might be in a rush and be like, oh, here it's bolted, it's gonna produce seed. I wanna save seed from that. Don't. Save seed from your best, healthiest plants that have the traits that you want.
What does it look like to run a variety trial on your farm? How much work is it? How do you take that data and then make it meaningful?
This restoration of knowledge is key to maintaining and increasing these shared seed resources.
So I just want to add, for most of us that are small and that might not do this, I think it's actually pretty simple. I think it's pretty simple to figure out like how to do the diversity of the seeds. You find the seeds that you like, you find the tastiest plants, you find the plants that grow the very best, and you save the seeds. So if you're eating a tomato, if you're eating a watermelon, and you really like the taste of it, and it was nice and juicy, and you liked when it was mature, and the plant looked really well, and the plant did really well, then after you're done eating, make sure you save some of those. So I think it's always a good idea. Like if you don't have a whole lot, is when you're slicing up your tomato or when you're slicing up your watermelon, put it to the side, taste that watermelon, make sure it was what you wanted, taste that vegetable, that fruit. And if you really like it, then at that particular point, save those seeds, document it down, write it down, and things of that sort. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to save those seeds, but again, we're just building a foundation on why it's important to save seeds and all of the important stuff with that.
Meanwhile, seed libraries for the public are cropping up all over.
So we have a bunch of different tomato varieties. And the important thing to remember about the seed library is we can only take open pollinated varieties. So we can't take any seed that's been patented or that's GMO seed, because we are sharing these seeds for free.
So urban gardening, I mean, there's a lot out there for urban gardening. I mean, grow food, teach your children where it comes from. For goodness sake, everybody can grow food. It's nothing, it takes nothing. You put a seed in the ground.
And so when we get donations from seed companies, we do let them know, like, this seed is going to be shared for free with the community. So that's why we only accept the open pollinated varieties.
While Gillette Seed Library is housed at the local Ag Extension Office, seed libraries are proliferating in public libraries across the country.
So I do want to add, you will come across some seed libraries, and you will see some stuff that they will accept things outside. They will actually accept things that aren't open pollinator, just because some of the places like to donate lots of variety of seeds, and as long as the people that are donating the seeds understand that that's how that is. So I do want to make sure that is clear, that doesn't always happen the way she's describing, but in general, especially if she's working for an ag department and things of that sort, in general, if you get seeds from one of those, they are absolutely usually heirloom, open pollinating, things of that sort. They're the kind of seeds that you want to be growing.
Okay, so this is the seed catalog. This is where all the seeds live. And so they're kind of organized. So this is vegetables, and the herbs start here, and flowers. Everything's organized alphabetically and then by variety. So if you came in here, you could say we've got beans. And so this is like a Blue Lake pole bean. It's got all the information, scientific name, days to maturity. And then this sticker here indicates.
Yeah, at seed libraries, Shepherd Dog Bear, at seed libraries, if you can find a seed library, like my local library here has it in southern West Virginia, but at the seed library, you go to the seed library, you check out the seed, and if you do really well with the seed, then all they do is ask you to return back some seeds so other people can keep growing them. And if they don't do well, then they like you to just come in and tell them and say, yeah, this seed doesn't do that well in the particular area. And then, they also get to know the germination stuff. So the seed library here in southern West Virginia, I've been participating with them for about 5 years, and came across some really awesome, spectacular seeds, and try every year to return back some different varieties of seeds that we've tried. So it's just a really cool thing. It's also something that I'd really like a lot of us, as we start building community and as we start doing more things here on the internets and such. I do think this is something that we all need to start doing together. Is we need to start letting everybody know which region we live in, what kind of stuff we grow, and then just start, trading seeds and exchanging seeds and such like that. So I just think that that's the more we can do, and things of that sort. But again, you should look at your region. You should contact your local ag department, your extension office. You could contact maybe your local library and see if they actually have a seed library or a seed exchange or a seed bank. Some different places call it different things, but you should definitely check that out because you'd be surprised there might be one not very far away from you.
Kate's ease of saving, so green is easy. What's really important with libraries is the community. We're the space for that, and we're a place that's open to everyone, regardless of class, regardless of position. I mean, your county commissioner down to somebody who doesn't have a home.
Cute
We're
old
all in
people.
this space
Aw.
together, and that's what makes us really unique. And so we have to really be conscious of that, and we have to provide access for everyone. But I feel like the other part of access is sharing, and the seeds are an extension of that because they're knowledge, they're tools, they're something that we all use. We all eat food, we all consume things, and it's really just another way to empower people with knowledge and food.
And guess what? You could harvest some of it, you isolate a plant, or you just pick the best plant you have, the best tomato, and then you save that seed.
Like here's a green tomato. And the thing for us is our growing seasons are so short, right? So like this one, 85 days is a long time for us. So we want we want to get things down to the 60 range usually for tomatoes.
Eventually, we'd like to create seeds that are acclimated and adapted to our climate so that when you check out a seed from our seed library, you know it's going to grow well here because it's been saved from a member of our community, brought back to the seed library, and then you can use it and grow it in your garden.
And so that's part of like adapting. And see, this one's better, 77 days. So, and then you'll see with the yellow sticker that it's instead of easy, it'd be like an intermediate, but it's still pretty easy. Yeah.
Regional adaptation
I
is
think
so
farmers have been
important.
doing that for the last 20,000 years, right?
No, you're right. I mean, farmers have been doing it. It's just we've got kind of dumb and we stopped. Life got so easy for a lot of people that less and less of us started growing foods.
The crazy thing is, there's a lot of farms here in Kentucky that still do what they're talking about, like save the seeds and stuff, because they can't afford like GMO seeds and stuff.
Yeah, but compared to the amount of people that farm and the amount of people that could just grow something in their back garden, it's shocking how few people are.
But probably most of those guys that are farming down in Kentucky, right? They've got a seed that they plant, and that's what they grow, right?
Yeah, it's like a seed that's been passed down through generations. Like it's adapted to our environment.
Those guys. It's unlikely that those guys are suddenly going to learn some new, better seed than what they've got. You know what I'm saying? It's like no. We know what we want to grow, right? It's this seed. This is the best thing to grow here, and they know it. Like so, but all I'm saying is I don't know. Are these guys actually going to discover anything new? Maybe a little bit. Like I'm not poo-pooing what they're doing. It's wonderful what they're doing. Obviously the whole thing's great, but like, it's already been done. Like they're like pretending that they can reinvent wheat or something. Like, nah. I'm just a little bit averse to that.
So you might be able to take it back some on like the evolutionary pole through how you do it, but that's about.
So let me tell you this really fun fable that exists. It's a fable story out there. So there's this farmer this is actually, it's a fable, but it's also something to think about when it comes to food practices as well. So there's this farmer and he grows prize corn every year. Spectacular, awesome prize corn. The best corn wins every state fair. And in the spring, before planting season, he gives all of his seeds to his neighbors. And some of these rich city folk come in and say, why do you keep giving away all your prized corn? You've got the best corn. You should patent this. You should keep track of this. You have the superior corn. You could be making millions and millions about this. And his response is like, well, if everybody around me has superior corn, then my corn will always stay superior. We'll never pollute the gene pool. And so that's, so the moral of the story is if everybody works together and everybody has the best quality seed, then the best quality seed will just keep staying the best quality seed and possibly improve. It'll just keep getting better. So that's just something that we need to think about, something to keep in mind. Shepherd Dog Bear, one thing we're going to talk a little bit later on in this show. We're going to talk a little bit about how to build your indoor growing tents, and I'm going to show a little bit like all of my tomatoes. If you see here, so this time of year, because it's starting to get cold, I take clippings of my tomatoes, and I don't know if you guys can see the roots, but it's already starting to grow roots. So we'll talk a little bit how to do the cloning,
That's
and
awesome.
then how to do some setups. And I'm probably not going to get tomatoes off of this in my house. But what I'll do is I will have in the spring, I will have a spectacular jump start with a bunch of plants ready to go. As soon as the weather breaks here and I can start putting them in the ground in the spring, I'll have a bunch of, functioning, really ready to go plants. And so since sometimes you might not actually want to save the seeds because they're going to take a little bit longer, but you can save the plants with cloning and knowing how to keep cloning on top of that, and how to grow them with hydroponics, with aquaponics, with aeroponics, and with just grow with dirt and indoor grow stations. So back to the chickadee.
Particularly for regions that are underserved by agribusiness.
We're such a unique, we're a microclimate, and there's not a lot of information on our zones and how short our growing season is, and so there's some unique challenges to seed saving here and gardening here.
Most of the farmers that we work with are not in the Corn Belt, so they're not really being thought of in terms of what kinds of crops should be grown.
Now these all survived very nicely when it was about 24 degrees down here in the hardening off shed.
It is this simple process in the hands of many through the previous 11,000 years that has created the vast majority of crop adaptations enjoyed around the world today.
We saved a lot of these seeds, but all of them are definitely heirlooms. Open pollinated, some are heirlooms.
There was some winter peas that a gentleman saved that survived that 40 below cold snap we had last winter. So now we have, and he's like, I don't know how they lived, but they lived. And so, that's how we're getting these adaptations. That's how these things are happening. And so now we have those available in the seed library, so maybe it's not an impossible dream to grow in winter.
Plants have a variety of life strategies that make some easier to save seed from than others.
So we have 27 different gardens, and we have it spread out quite a ways. We do seed savings in a couple of different ways. One of them is we rotate, so when something is in bloom, the other one isn't. So if you're growing two kinds of beans, one comes to bloom first and then the other. So you can save the seed from the first one, because you don't want cross-pollination. The other thing too is we can plant something this far away, and I have a chart that tells you how far away you can plant for seed saving, Or if you that seed's fine.
Some of the things with cross-pollination and stuff like that, that's a little more advanced. You aren't necessarily thinking about squash and pumpkins cross-pollinate, and so I saved those seeds, and the next year I didn't know what I had.
So if you do want to save seeds from squash, you do have to isolate the blossoms, and you preferably will self-pollinate those with a cotton swab or something. You'd isolate that blossom, so then you'd know that you're getting a true to type seed from that plant.
There are crops that are mostly self-pollinating, and then there are crops that are mostly crossing, and then there's sort of everything in between. So mostly self-pollinating crops would be things like lettuce and peas, and mostly outcrossing would be brassicas.
Brassicas are the hardest. That would be cauliflower and Brussels sprouts and those things.
And corn, for example. And then in between there are things like tomatoes and cucumbers and all of those things. So, these two groups of plants
So I do want to mention, when it comes to the cucumbers and some of the other stuff, that is where that's where having your bees and things of that sort in the area, or if you're not going to have bees, building yourself little bee houses so that you can attract different types of pollinator bees and such in. So that, again, that's where this whole combination of knowing how to interwork everything together.
It's crazy to think that a lot of this knowledge has been lost over the years.
Oh yeah, no, it's absolutely crazy to think that.
And it's only over the past couple hundred years. In fact, it's not like it's been lost over 1,000 years ago.
No, it's only just a few generations.
Yeah.
Have different life strategies. In corn, if you self-pollinate corn all the time, we see really severe inbreeding depression. The plants get shorter, the yield gets to be less. That doesn't happen in plants like peas. The more you inbreed them, we don't see that kind of change.
And the easiest seeds to save, this is what we tell people, are peas, beans, lettuce, tomatoes, and peppers. So if you're new to seed saving, those are the 5 varieties to start with first.
For plants that are mostly self-pollinating, you have to have a perfect flower. So you have to have the stigma and the anthers on the same flower. And very often what you'll find is that flower has those things enclosed together. So peas very often will have the stigma and the anther closed together. For other crops like corn that are highly encouraging crossing, you'll find temporal or spatial differences in flowers. So on corn you have the male flower, which is the tassel on the top, and you have the female flower, which is the silk on the bottom of the plant. And that spatial separation helps encourage pollination from neighboring plants. So very often you'll have the wind blow pollen from your neighbor onto the silk of the plant next to it.
This ease of cross-pollination is cause for much concern in regards to GMO corn crops spreading their DNA among non-GMO varieties.
In corn, it's a huge possibility. I mean, most conventional corn is genetically modified. So for growers who are trying to grow organic corn seed, it's a huge challenge to ensure that they are not getting that cross-pollination happening.
So that's what I was talking about earlier. That's where, depending on where you grow, you really need to know why it's a good idea to share good quality seeds with those around you. And it's also really important to know what people are growing in your area. And it's also good to know which way the wind blows. So if you happen to live in an area where, people around you are going to grow a lot of corn, just understand that you're going to have this cross-pollination because that's how corn was set up. And Shepherd Dog Bear, thanks for the follow.
I feel like that's a lot of institutional knowledge that goes along with seed saving in general, and so I kind of wanted to extract that knowledge out of the community that we already have and have it housed in a place where everybody can access that.
In seed vaults, they serve a purpose in that they're preserving the seed for long term. But we want the seed out in the community and in people's hands so that they're comfortable with seed, they're growing the seed, and they're saving seed, and they're bringing it back to the seed library. So somebody that you've never met can then check out seed that you've donated and grow it in their garden. And it just continues the cycle. So part of our mission statement is to create a culture of sharing, and that's really what we're trying to foster here.
Yeah, well, and this belongs to the community. This is for the community, and that's why it belongs in the library.
And heirloom seeds are a favorite among these community collections.
A regular heirloom seed is just defined really as open pollinated. It's just pollinated by nature, one way or another, and it's been like that for who knows how long.
Producers like Prairiana and Lower Piney also steward seeds for their community.
It's really nice when somebody does come up with some pepper seeds or tomato seeds and says, here, try these, did we like them? And so we try them, and it's, they're ones that they've had for a long time.
Well, and everything has a story, and that's also another interesting thing. Like, we have a form that when people donate seeds, we ask them to fill out, and then at the very bottom are like, is there anything that you would like us to know about these seeds? Is there anything you would like us to include in terms of like an anecdote or a story? Because I feel like that's just as important as the seeds themselves, because that's part of our history.
That's what's so neat about heirlooms, is because people come to the farmer's market and they'll go, this just tastes exactly like my grandmother's green beans. So that's very rewarding.
There was one where a gentleman was, he had saved seeds while he was in World War II, and he brought them back, and then his daughter had them, and then his granddaughter, and so that's something that we've seen. We've also had people being like, I remember my grandmother, germinating these seeds in tea towels on the counter.
Some people have this old family bean that they've grown for years, and they say, we live in town, I don't have a place to keep them.
Some seeds that were donated, they were like, the woman who donated them said they were saved by this family who had passed away. And so we decided to name the variety after the family.
Another lady who is quite ill, fighting cancer, and she has this corn that she wants preserved.
People do still have them out there, we just don't know, and they don't know that people want their seeds.
Well, and interestingly too, seeds and by default food can be political. And so that's really interesting how those two things are, you don't necessarily think about what you're eating and, the scarcity or the abundance.
That biodiversity is a cultural diversity thing.
A friend of mine who grew peppers from Aleppo, and so those are very rare, and so she never really occurred to her that to grow these peppers is political, and it's an act of it's a conscious act of saving these foods.
People are really wonderful in giving us seeds to try to keep going.
I think being more seed aware is, can only mean good for our local communities.
Keep growing them and keep adapting them to new environments. Who knows how well a seed from 100 years ago would do today? The climate has changed. Our management practices have changed. We need varieties that are growing with our systems and growing with our changing climate.
Yeah.
So I think that was a pretty good little documentary about seed saving and why it's important to keep the seeds and just all the different cool things.
Indeed.
So that was so the idea behind that, the reason we watched that first is that was just to kind of give people a background, because some people might not realize why it's important to save seeds when they say, well, I can just go and buy them from the particular store, or I can just go out there and pick them up and things of that sort. So we're going to watch another one in a minute, but we're going to talk a little bit more. But we're going to watch another one in a minute, and this one we're going to watch is this guy's going to show you some of the secrets on saving a variety of different types of seeds. And there's lots of tricks. We're really going to break this down from all the different types of tricks that I know, tricks that we can have on the internet, and then tricks that some of you guys out there in internet land might also know. So what's interesting is I have some really interesting seeds. So I have we've grown some seeds that I picked up at seed libraries. We have some seeds that are like our blue mountain squash or a blue mountain pumpkin, depending on what you'd rather call it. The blue mountain squash, blue mountain pumpkin, they're ginormous. I didn't actually grow any this year, but I have grown some in the past. And Lisa, do you remember how much it weighed when we weighed it?
Of what?
The blue mountain squash, the blue mountain pumpkin, the one we grew.
I think it was 36 pounds.
It was like she said it was in the 30s, pound wise, high 30s. So it was really, really heavy. What was really cool though is I did an experiment with one. Is I left one in my hallway where it doesn't get a lot of light and it doesn't get a lot of moisture. But I left one in my hallway for an entire year, one full year. And then opened it up and cut it open to see if it was still edible, if its shelf life was a year. And while it wasn't extremely as tasty as the ones that you ate fresh, it was still absolutely edible after a year of just sitting in a house.
That's amazing.
That, for having a vegetable that has a year shelf life, is just awesome. So
I didn't know you could do that with pumpkin.
Oh, hold on, Mark. For some reason, you got real quiet. Let me...
You just normal on mine.
Okay, let's say that again, Mark.
I said I didn't know that you could do that with pumpkin.
I did.
It lasted that long. That's remarkable.
From the day I picked it, I marked the day I pick it. I wrote it on the calendar, and then I made the idea that I was gonna wait in it, unless it started rotting in the house. Like if it started rotting in the house and falling apart, then of course I was gonna not do that. But to date, to an exactly a year later, I cut it open and it was still viable. It was still edible. The taste was the taste had diminished a little bit. You could tell that it was starting to get old tasting, but you could still eat it. You could still do all the tricks that you wanted with it, and just I was absolutely amazed because I had never seen
Yeah, I mean,
pumpkins and squash I've never had anything last that long.
I'd imagine like a dryer, something that's dry, lasting a long time. But pumpkins there's a lot of water in that that year-old pumpkin. Yeah, it's not rotted. That's not right. Wet things that are a year old rot.
The skin.
It's got that unique flavor.
The skin was like this thick when you cut it open. The rind, it's got a really, really thick rind, is the reason I wanted to try that experiment. So, pumpkins have, some, watermelon have a pretty, rubbery rind, and pumpkins have a little bit thick rind, but this had a really, really thick rind. So the plant, I was told that it originally originated from the Black Forest in Germany, is where I heard it, or that these plants originally and then they brought them here to the United States, and then they grew them in Bluefield for quite a long time. And so I think that because of the cold temperatures and such like that, I think that's what gave them that rind, and is also what might have given them that longevity to make it last as long as they could. So, because there's different varieties of apples that will have a really, really long shelf life as well, and then there's some apples that have a really short shelf life.
Not a year though.
Yeah. Translucent apples, I think. Translucent apples actually only have like a couple days from when you pick them off of a tree and when you can eat them, to things like Arkansas Black and Granny Smith. I think that they can go 6 months. I think they can go, 6 months.
You're right.
Yeah.
They can go 3 to 6 months depending on how you keep them. I've got a Granny Smith.
I used to have a Granny Smith tree in my garden, and I would I'd pick them, and I would still be eating them after Christmas.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So, but again,
you don't want to keep them in your refrigerator because it'll cause them.
No, you just keep them like in a drawer or something like that. As long as they're not touching, it doesn't matter where you keep them, in the dark, in the cold.
I mean, and just so you know, the key to that pumpkin is I had a piece of styrofoam, and I had the pumpkin sitting on the styrofoam, and I had it just sitting in the back hall where it didn't get any direct sunlight, and it was just kind of a very stable part of my house. That's why I chose to put it there. And so that also did play a role. But the fact is knowing that there is a vegetable now that has a year life, that's really, really cool. And being able to find more stuff like that, knowing how long the shelf life are.
Well, there's cheese and pumpkins like the pumpkins just entered the category of cheese in my estimation, in terms of something that can last that length of time. Only cheese is that good.
Flavor.
Yep.
And a good blue cheese.
Yeah, I don't even think potatoes would last that long unless you really, really put them in the right environment.
You'd want to put potatoes in like rice or something.
If you dry stuff, then it's a different kettle of fish.
Yeah.
You can dry stuff out, and you can make virtually, you can make a potato last for years if you dried it out. You could make a cucumber last for years if you dried it out. But that's cheating.
Yeah,
that's not what we're talking about. Taking something that you've just grown, and that's it. Do not mess with it.
Yep, just let it.
It's like nature made it that way.
Yeah, nature knew what it was doing and did an awesome job at it. So. Okay, so let me bring up. So this next one we're gonna watch is where it is focusing on this gentleman and the way he saves seeds. So if you guys are wondering, if you guys need copies of these videos, let me know. They'll be available in the Discord. And if for some of you that might be wondering why I'm playing other people's videos, is this is a lot of there's a lot of mess, and there's a lot of work to go, and this isn't something that's just I can just easily show you in a little video. And I don't currently have good quality videos where I've done this myself. That's something I do need to do. So that's why. So let's get this up and going. And so here we go with some. This is called the best secrets of saving seeds.
Saving seed is the backbone of gardening. However, many modern gardening books or TV shows neglect this most fundamental part of raising plants. I will show you how to collect and store your own seed in a nifty way and share with you a secret that will boost your seed-saving powers. Up next. We take it as granted that we can start by opening a seed packet bought in a store. This wasn't true until the relatively recent Victorian period, when a newfound passion for gardening by a growing middle class fueled by industrial growth and mechanization created the ubiquitous mail-ordered seed catalog selling neatly packaged seeds in colorful envelopes. The seed packet. While the cover image
pause there, Doc. Pause there, Doc.
The concept
the idea that we didn't store seeds before is preposterous. It's known that the first, currently officially, according to the normies, the oldest structure in the world that's we've still got that's like a functional structure is a seed bank. It's in Israel and it's 12,000 years old or something like that. So
they
I
also
don't know
have
how
a
she's
seed
saying that
bank
we.
in Antarctica also.
Well, yeah, but we didn't have that 12,000 years ago. But it wasn't just the Victorians that stored seeds.
Yeah, well, and it probably wasn't even the Victorians that used seeds for a type of trade or currency or something.
No. Seeds were definitely used as currency throughout all of
cultures have
history.
their own way of storing seeds depending on the environment and what they're used for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I
mean,
sometimes I think a lot of people just go back to the Victorian era just because it sounds cool to go back to that particular thing.
It's the leftist. It suits the leftist narrative of we've ruined the world and that's something that we've just done with machines in the last 100 years. That's why.
It's about people. Have yourself a wonderful night. Thanks for swinging by. Yeah, no, I agree. But I did notice it looks like those seeds are from Birmingham, so I don't know why French breakfast radishes would be
just showing off your pronunciation there, Doc.
It sort of looks like a fucked up pumpkin.
Now I've eaten those radishes before. They're like a longer radish, kind of they're like a little skinny baby carrot. If you like radishes, they're awesome. They're really, really good.
Man, I love carrots.
But yeah, again, if you guys if none of you have ever grown anything, radishes are always the first thing to start off with. If I want to try a new soil mix or if I want to try a new garden plot, I always put some radishes in first because radishes grow. You can get radishes that will go from seed to eat in 18 days. And so radishes just are one of the fastest growing things. If your radishes, if you plant a bunch of radishes and your radishes don't grow in that particular thing, then you don't have a good mix. And so radishes are kind of just a way to help let you know if the soil's good or not. And radishes you can put in way earlier than you can put other things because they're very tolerant of colder temperatures.
Tomatoes is another awesome plant to grow.
Yes.
Seed to eat in 18 days.
In 18 days. Radishes can be seed to eat in 18 days. Yep.
But you could just stand there and watch that grow.
Tomato plants be like 20 days?
Yeah, it's almost like you can watch them grow. What'd you say, Golf?
Isn't there some tomato plants that grow almost in the same time frame, if not a few days later?
No,
25 days, 30.
I think I don't know what the fastest cherry tomatoes and Tom's Thumb are the fastest growing tomatoes, and I don't know how fast it is from seed to tomato. Radishes, carrots, and certain types of
potatoes,
beets, and certain types of beets and such like that are the fastest from seed to eat. As long as you're not eating sprouts. If you're doing sprouts or something like that, there's a lot of stuff you can eat pretty quickly. Pea sprouts are pretty awesome, and sunflower sprouts are two of the fastest sprouts that you can eat. But if you want to actually eat the vegetable, radishes are, to my knowledge, the winner. There's nothing faster.
Cress.
I got something here. I doubt you do. Do you know peanuts were grown underground?
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Mark got it. Watercress. He's absolutely correct. Watercrests are the fastest. Yes. What were you saying, Golf?
Oh, I forgot.
Okay, let's go back to the guy that thinks that we just started saving seeds in Victorian era.
Concept of a
Poor
packet
guy.
itself has not. This
Rated him.
luxury hides the true cycle that must go on to ensure a species survive. The first rule in saving seed is to select the best specimens you have that show the most desirable traits to leave as seed stock. I had some beautiful, strong zinnia growing in the midst of my tomato bed. I wanted to save their seeds to grow new ones similar to these for seasons to come. I remember reading as a child a book that told the story of a seed that wanted to live forever, that wanted to be perpetual. After restless search and failed attempts, it finally realized that to live on, it had to die as a seed and be buried on the ground for a new plant and seed to grow from it, to be perpetual. For some reason, this simple story stuck with me, despite being raised in the concrete jungle of São Paulo and having very little contact with the plant world. This tale encapsulated an important truth in gardening. To save a plant for posterity, you must keep planting it. Saving seed is just a temporary lockdown to safeguard genetic material for some time, but old seeds lose viability. The easiest way to save good viable seed, in the case of most flowers, is to wait for the seed heads to completely dry and then harvest them. I returned weeks later when the flowers had gone from plump and colorful to old and muted to dried and brown. I harvested them, collecting the full seed head. In the case of zinnias and many flowers, you will have petals mixed in with chaff and seed. Zinnia is a composite flower. That means that while we may think of each bloom as one flower, they are actually a collection of many flowers, some more fertile than others. Many other flowers have similar structure, including sunflowers. While I could store these seeds together with the petals and chaff, it is always a good idea to winnow it to get pure seed left. It ultimately saves you space and storage. First, I crush everything using my hands to make winnowing easier. This forces the heavier and sturdier seed to separate from the more flimsy chaff and petals. It is a good idea to use gloves because doing this repeatedly can hurt your skin. Winnowing in a windy day is always a better choice. The idea is to throw seed from up high.
So I'm just gonna add to the mix there. If what you're doing, picking up the seeds and crushing it with your hands and letting the seed blow it out, if that's hurting your hands, then you really need to start actually doing stuff.
I can get a sieve or something like, mate, you know, like in some sort of an automated way. It's actually like that's not realistic. What he's just showing you how something you wouldn't really do that. Like if you need to get a lot of seeds.
No, that's something you do if you want to if you want to do something for fun and you've got some extra time time sitting around, or you're a hipster and you're bragging about how you're growing some really cool seeds.
Like there's a machine that you use to separate seeds from chaff, right? And you just get one of those and use it, right?
I mean, or you can do with what he's saying. I mean, you can do that. Like that's if I'm imagining he's doing this because he's not going to save a whole lot of seeds. So this is something that you could be doing. I actually think there's other things you can be doing with the blooms and the blossoms, like making teas and other stuff with them as well. But let's continue on.
Letting the lighter chaff fly away as the heavier seeds fall into a container. This is the simplest type of seed to save, the ones that dry naturally on their own and would just fall to the ground had it been left to its own devices. Most garden flowers are processed similarly. Other vegetables may have different seed structures and a different process will be needed. In general, a seed is what is considered a fruit botanically, and before a seed develops, there must be a flower. In the case of radishes, what we could mistakenly call its fruit, the edible part, the red globe we eat, is anything but. It has nothing to do with plant reproduction. Although it is showy and colorful, the fruit of the radish is something quite different. If you harvest your radishes in time, you will never see its flower or fruit. In fact, most city people and young children may have no clue that radishes have flowers. A seasoned gardener knows far too well how quickly radishes can go to seed, what we call bolting. We try to avoid it at all costs. That is, unless we are intentionally trying to save seeds. After flowering, radish will start developing green pods that will contain a few seeds inside each. One thing many people may not know is that the tender pods are edible, as I showed in my previous video with the stir-fry recipe. They must be collected when tender and young though. A few days later and it becomes past its prime, increasing in
Don't bother. Like, I'm just gonna add that really easy and simple. Yes, they're edible. You're gonna be disappointed.
Just had to shit on that parade real quick.
No, I mean, again, I like to eat lots of stuff. I really, really do. And I've let them go to pod and I've ate the pods before and I'm just not impressed.
They're really fibrous, aren't they?
It's not, no, they're just, it's like putting some edamame or it's like putting some beans into your, there's nothing that resembles a radish. And if you're going to spend the time to let them go to pod, like especially you've got a small window, just let them go to pod and use the seeds to make more awesome radishes. Like, I think that's a better use of them.
pungency and becoming pithy and inedible. If you are saving seeds, you must wait for it to fully mature and dry on the plant. The most viable seeds will be harvested only when the seed pods are completely dried and brittle. They must dry on the plant. If the seed stalks are cut when still green and left to dry, they may not develop and mature fully. And while you may still get some viable seed from it, it is always recommended to allow it to mature naturally. While the flowering stage of radish actually looks pleasant and picturesque in the garden and provides much needed nectar to pollinators, when the seed pods develop and start to dry, the plant may start looking gangly and unsightly. Unsightly to those who want to restrain nature and make it follow their preconceived notions of beauty and order. I think there is beauty in this stage too, much like there is beauty in an elder's wrinkled face. As for storing your radish seeds, you could save them in their pods and in a dry place and break them open as you need them when planting. If you want to winnow it out to save space, you will have to crush the seed pods, releasing the seeds. The seed pod will also be lighter and will rise to the surface and be carried by the wind. When crushing the seed pods, your hands work well, but it does take a toll on your skin. Crushing them with some type of tool may end up damaging the seeds themselves, so you
Okay, don't do this. I'm just gonna add that straight off the back. He is doing way more work for yourself. I can tell you exactly how to get the seeds. You see the pod right there? Right on the edge of the pod, you can pull the little string and shake it open and a bunch of seeds will fall out. And you don't need to do this, like, ceremonial winding that whatever you're doing. I don't actually, like, I understood with the other plant, I really did. I don't actually know why you would do that with these.
And then he keeps bitching about his hands.
I mean, you know, if you want to eat peanuts and you want to, you know, make sure you can get the nuts out of the peanuts, you could do the same thing with peanuts. Go to the store next time, grab a whole bunch of peanuts and crush them all with your hands and stand out in the wind, and you'll just have the peanuts left and all the.
You gotta have like an Indian beat going in the background. The loincloth.
And again, guys, if you want to do this, if this is something, if you're doing this for relaxation or you're doing this because you think it's fun, then please go ahead and do it. But if you're trying to be practical and you want to actually save seeds and you want to do this, with this particular one is definitely a little drawn.
A little weird.
I think the thing that people aren't really mentioning as well is that you do get loads of seeds. It's like, it's not like there's a shortage of seeds. It's not like you plant one thing and then you just like maybe get a couple of seeds back. Like, if you want to get lots of seeds back when you've got a few seeds, you can very quickly get lots of seeds, like far more seeds than you could possibly ever want. And then you've got shitloads of seeds and you can just eat the seeds if you want, or just burn them and use them as fuel. You've got so many seeds, it's silly.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
It's not. It's not like we're shortage. It's the diversity, I guess, is the message that they're talking about.
Yeah, it's
we're
the
worried that we're losing. We're worried that we're losing diversity, but then at the same time, they're also talking about how we want to just use these things to grow in particular places, which is the right thing to do, and that's then the opposite of diversity, because actually what they're saying is, well, we just need to find what the right carrot is to grow on this mountain. Right, okay, that's it then, that's it. Don't ever grow anything other than that carrot there, because that's the best carrot to grow there. We've worked it out. We've solved it. So the database thing that they're creating is actually going to end up reducing diversity.
No, it won't, because that carrot that you grow, like that carrot, like for example here where I live, is because of microenvironments. The carrot that I grow on the market garden might not be as good as the carrot that I grow back where the chickens live, because back where the chickens live, the soil's different, and the water and the humidity's different. So so there is a lot. So you do want to grow what's best where it's growing, but you also want to make sure that where you're growing in each individual little spot, you're growing the best thing you possibly can grow there. So
Agreed, but you're never going to grow anything else there. That once you know the answer, you're kind of not going to be searching anymore. That's it. You found your carrot now. If you're the farmer that farms that mountain, that's it. You're not that if you found the right carrot, you found the right carrot. So where's the incentive in that system to proliferate the diversity?
The incentive comes about is if something major changes, like if you start having extended cold snaps, or if if a neighbor does something to change the local environment, then you might want to, if you start noticing your carrots aren't doing as well. And some things like corn, you actually do want to introduce new species because it strengthens a corn. Because if a corn keeps interbreeding, like corn's an example of something, if it keeps interbreeding, it's actually harmful for the corn. Where things like peas or other things, if it keeps interbreeding, it doesn't actually hurt it. So again, it's very plant by plant based. It's very plant by plant. So.
You do not want to do that. Coming up next, I will show you how to create your own nifty containers to store your seed efficiently and beautifully, and also share with you the secret to storing them properly using a simple trick to ensure longer viability. Suburban Homestead is brought to you by Patreon. You need thick masking tape and round labels of different sizes to create details. If you know anyone with young babies, they will be more than happy to give you these jars. You will need to have the jars washed and dried with the labels removed.
I'm gonna just mute him for just a second. Yeah, glass containers are awesome. If you know somebody, if you can get baby food jars, if you can get little glass containers. He's got a lot of time on his hands. I can tell because he's putting tape down and cutting it, and I mean, while it's pretty, really good if you've got kids or you've got a woman in your household that wants to focus on cool projects. These are great for them. If you're trying to save seeds and you're practical like I am, what you're gonna do is you're gonna do this. You're just gonna write something on the top of a mason jar. Anyways, you were saying, Mock?
Something handy, and I've done for many years, and I ask my family to even contribute, and I got overwhelmed with them even, but are pill bottles.
Pill bottles, yep.
And one of the things I've done, I'll have to take some pictures or get them where I've stored seeds, is warm up non-scented waxes and just enough to melt the wax, and then dip it, and it helps like seal them in, like dry seeds in there.
So yeah, so cool what this guy's doing. If you're into Pinterest, this is awesome. And you've got a lot of time on your hand and you're a hipster, this is exactly what you should be doing. I agree. This is cool, especially since he probably used that, that chalk paint, and yeah. I'm sorry, I'm trying to spin this as positively as I can.
You should have been a Blue Peter presenter. You guys don't know what that is. Sorry.
No. But
Have you not heard the meme? Here's one I made earlier. You never heard that one? Okay. Damn Americans.
so I mean, that's cool what he did there. Don't get me wrong, that looks cool. I think it looks really cool. And that's and you know, if someone gave me one of those jars, I would be very keen. I would love it. It would be
But you could just as well use a bottle of Coke. Like that would be fine. Just any receptacle whatsoever that's airtight is fine, right?
I mean, again,
So
this is how I label mine. I've got an awesome mason jar, and I just label them on the top. You know, so that's how I label mine. But if you want to go to that extent, I will say one of the perks to going to that extent is if you ever decide you want to start you want to do a business, you could actually that would be a really good business to be able to sell your seeds and to sell your containers on Etsy and such like that, because a lot of people would probably be, you know, game on wanting to have that because it looks pretty and it looks cool. So spinning it into a more positive thing, it could be a very good business. It could be a very good business idea to go into do stuff like that.
Lisa, now that gave me an idea. I could 3D print a lot of the containers.
You could, and people would probably like that. And if you 3D printed containers and maybe the lid and maybe the lid looked like the finished fruit, people would like that kind of stuff too.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think let's unmute him and let's go back to seeing what else is going on.
Trick to remedy this, and it might be the most important thing to remember from this video. This will ensure that you become a master seed saver and will prevent you from having rotten seed and broken dreams. In fact, I will go so far as to say, if you do not include this trick when saving seeds in glass jars, do not save them in jars. It is better to keep them in paper bags. The secret is to include a packet of silica inside each jar. A very cheap and reliable source of silica granules is actually cat litter. Make sure it is of the translucent crystal type. Other types of cat litter do not work. These crystals are basically silica crystals. All you need to do is to make a little pouch with a paper coffee filter or folded up tissue paper with these crystals inside. Use a stapler to secure the packet, and that's it. Put it inside the jar, and now you can safely tighten the lids and store your seeds. You can use as much silica as you want. The more you use, the better it is. If you don't want to use cat litter, you can buy silica crystals online for flower drying, but it is basically the same product. In a future episode, I will discuss why saving your own seed is important. But now that you know how to save seeds correctly, you can start saving your own, contributing to the perpetual cycle of seed to flower to fruit to seed.
Okay, so no, that silicon thing is probably one of the better tricks. That was actually the main reason I wanted us to watch the video together. It's because I like his silicon trick there at the end. I will say I'm gonna disagree when he did make the comment that if the more silicon the better. It's not necessarily true. There's a balance. Like you don't want more silicon in the jar than you have seeds.
You don't want to dry your seeds completely out.
Yeah, but so I mean, like ways that we'll go in ways that I actually store seeds. So I store seeds like this, and I store these in the refrigerator. So these just happen to be crookneck squash. But sometimes I'll take crookneck squash and I'll store them in the freezer as well, especially if you've got them sealed off in a jar. And the perk of the freezer is that you can store them for multiple years. I've also I think I showed you before. I also sometimes store seeds with just in the little packages like this, and they store for I would say a few years. They store pretty well in packages like that.
Anything with a screw-on lid.
Anything with the screw-on lid will work with a lot of stuff. These watermelon seeds are extremely dry. They've been dried out for a long time, so they don't. The chances of them getting moist is pretty slim. So I brought a bunch of stuff with me to show you some other stuff, so we can.
I keep every peanut butter jar and jelly jar and ragu jar.
So
every glass jar.
So these are some of the beans that I had out in my yard this year. So I picked this to show you what this is a little too early. This was a little too early. This hasn't completely dried yet. The good thing is these beans have already developed in here, so all I have to do is actually just let this dry. But it is best to let this dry on the vine would be the best. But once it dries on the vine, it's going to look something like this. So if you guys can see, the color variance is a little different. This is more of a yellow color. And if I don't know if you guys can see this as well as I can, but if you look, it's starting the pod's starting to become translucent. So you can actually start seeing through the pod, and you can start seeing the colors of the beans. So I'm going to split this in half so I can show you guys exactly how. So you've got the little bead pod, and you'll see the little stem. So what's really easy is you just peel this off, and then you're going to see that in here there's some of these tan color beans. So they kind of look like little kidneys. So these beans are pretty much, they're still a little damp. So these beans, you wouldn't want to put them in the jar and store them right away. You'd want to put them like out for a couple hours, and you'll see that they're still very shiny. I don't know if you guys can see that in the screen, but they're still very shiny. While they're still shiny, that means they need a little bit more time to dry out. And then when you dry them out, those guys will be ready to put into your your saving. Or the other great thing about beans is once you dry your beans, you can start, making baked beans and such with them. So that's the cool thing about storing beans for future adventures. You can either use them for eating, or you can use them to grow cool beans and such with them. So, but yeah, really easy. Like once you get it split the right way, they just peel right off, and you've got your little pods of your beans. So you can actually eat the skins as well. When they're older, they're not really that tasty. They just kind of taste like a non-cooked bean shell. But there's actually a lot of fiber in this. So if you're someone that needs extra fiber in your diet, you can eat the bean shells. So I just like to eat plants. So which, by the way, guys, if you're in the eastern part of the United States, especially with all this rain and this warm cold, right now is a great time to find chicken in the woods. One of the most tasty edible mushrooms that's out there, and one of the easiest to identify. So side note. So what I'll probably do with these beans is I will put them on something like this and just let it sit out for, realistically, I'll probably let it sit out until I remember that I have them sitting out here on my desk. So it'll probably be a day or 2 or 3 or a week. And then I'll put them in a container, and then I'll grow some. I will grow some more. And just think about that. Like, so that was 4 beans. We're going back to what Mark was talking about. So I got 4 beans, and that was off of one plant, and this one plant probably had 30 or 40 pods in it. So it is amazing how quickly plants reproduce and give you more and more beans. It's definitely one of the more amazing things out there. Go ahead, Mark.
So that's for beans. 30 or 40. So what about carrots and potatoes or tomatoes, or like what's the ratio? It's ridiculous, isn't it? Like for a tomato. Well, it's hundreds, isn't it?
Hold on, Mark. That's 30 or 40 pods with at least 4 beans in them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like this pod right here, it's gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this pod's gonna have 6. And so that Really, if you want a good return on your dollar, is plant seeds, because if you can grow those seeds, you're going to get a spectacular return, because they're going to grow you lots and lots of food. Because like Dan said, scarcity in most things is a lie. We have abundance. Nature gives us an abundance of everything. We just have to know how to achieve that abundance. And that's where it takes a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of skill. But once you know a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of skill, absolutely crazy abundance. So I talked about it a little bit earlier, but we're going to show you guys again. So one of the other things I like doing is if I don't save the seeds of things, and that's that easy, we can go and we can go to tomato plants. And so all I did is I just cut a piece off of the tomato plant, and I wonder if I can get it so you guys can actually see the roots. If you guys look carefully right there, you guys should be able to see the roots inside there. And all I've done here is I cut the plant off like 3 days ago. This is rainwater. This is rainwater with one, and all I did up to make it interesting, just because it's a fun experiment, it's rainwater with one rabbit poop ball put into the rainwater. And then I stuck this in my little makeshift house, where I have a fan blowing on it and some light, and voila. And then what I'll do is I'll just keep this in my actually, I'll end up putting it probably behind me, and I'll have a bunch of these growing, and then I'll have tomatoes ready for this year coming up. Now, if you want to save tomato seeds, you're just like, well, Doc, you're supposed to tell me how to save tomato seeds. So let me tell you something that's really amazing with tomato seeds. So tomato seeds are one of the craziest things ever. I'm going to do an experiment. This year, because I was reading about how you should never ever buy a tomato seed, because you can pretty much grow tomatoes out of just about anything. So tomato seeds are so viable that if you go into your cabinet right now and you find a jar of salsa, store-bought salsa, you should be able to take some of the tomato seeds that's in that store-bought salsa and plant them and grow tomatoes from them.
Yeah. I've dumped salsa out in stuffed grill.
Yeah. That is how crazy tomatoes grow. So if you
in virtually any soil.
Yeah, in virtually any soil. Now, if you want the easiest way to get tomato seeds, like let's say that you don't want to go anything crazy. So what I usually do is take the center part where you've got the most of the seeds, cut that out, put that in water, stir that up, filter out the big chunky stuff, and then let that sit for like 2 days. Just sit it in your windowsill. It'll get this film across it. Let that sit for 2 days, stir it up again, and then pour it through a filter, and the seeds will separate from their goo. And then take those seeds and clean it out one more time, lay it on a paper towel, and it'll dry, and then just take those seeds and store those seeds. That's the absolutely easiest way to store tomato seeds. That it really is just that simple. A lot of the seeds that we're going to talk about, from pumpkins to squash to cantaloupes to a lot of that kind of stuff, it really is just as simple as to take the seeds and put it on a paper towel or put it on a paper plate and let it dry. And after a couple days, just take it off the paper plate and you're good to go. One trick my dad does is when he puts it on the paper plate, he writes a little information down on the paper plate, just because sometimes we've got 20 paper plates sitting around with just seeds all on them for a variety of different things. And so it is a good idea some seeds look very similar. Like sometimes it can be hard to tell the difference between like a cantaloupe seed and, a honeydew melon seed or things of that sort. Or if there's a different variety of tomatoes, it can be hard to know which tomatoes it came from. So it's best to, if you know, to write it down. So we write it down on that. So another interesting, I just learned this trick this year and it works really well. So these are peach seeds. So So here's some peach. These are some peaches from our peach that grows across the street. Which peaches aren't something that usually grows really well here, so I'm really happy to have some peach trees. So I like to let my peaches get completely. Before I start planting these, I like them to have none of their gook on it. And one trick that I've learned to get this gook cleaned off the quickest is put this in front of a beehive, or put it someplace where there's going to be some bees or some wasps, and they will go through and they will pick this thing clean for you. And just let it sit out there, let them pick it clean, and then when it's picked clean and dried like that, you're ready to go. And I'm gonna plant these in the spring, so I'm gonna acclimate them. I'll actually stick these in the fridge throughout the course of the winter, and then I'll take the peaches and I'll put them in the ground in the spring. You do want to put these when peaches, being that they've got a really, really hard shell. If you're gonna put them in the spring, you want to make sure that they're nice and wet when you put them in the ground. You don't want them like floating or anything like that, but definitely make sure that they have plenty of moisture. And what they'll ultimately do is right down this crack, they'll end up breaking right down that crack in the plant, and the little tree will pop out of there. So. And yeah, like Dan said, like he found some cherry tomatoes. There's a lot of seeds that you can buy at the store or at farmers markets and that kind of stuff. Just save some stuff. I mean, one of my favorite tricks to do is to take a tomato. And if you've never done this, we'll talk about this more in the spring to try to get everyone to do this. But if you've never done this, it's really simple. All you need is just a little bit of soil and a little container. So you put a little bit of soil down in the container, go to a tomato, slice off a piece of the tomato like you're going to put it on your sandwich, or you're going to put it on a hamburger, or you're just going to eat a nice, circular slice of tomato, preferably closer to the middle because you're going to get the most seeds. Put that tomato slice on top of that little pile of dirt, sprinkle some dirt on top of it, and stick it in a dark place for a couple days, and it's gonna start sprouting up like crazy. You're gonna get a bunch of tomato plants just start sprouting up from that. And all you did is take one slice of your tomato instead of putting it on a sandwich or eating it yourself. You've now just grown a bunch of tomato plants, and then you take those tomato plants. What you can do is you can make a tomato bush if you want, and you can just plant that whole thing in the ground, and a bunch of tomato plants are all going to grow up together, and you're going to make a tomato bush, which is just going to be a big, strong, crazy bush of tomatoes. But you could actually take each individual one of those plants and plant them separately and have a bunch of tomato plants. But there's nothing wrong with having a tomato bush. You're just not going to get as many tomatoes, but you won't have to stake them, because as the tomato bush, they'll all grow up on themselves, and then they'll intertang, and they'll make this big clump of craziness, and you won't have to stake it because it'll be a crazy clump because that's how the tomatoes would naturally want to grow in the wild, is as a big clump as the tomato falls on the ground. So let's see what else. Oh, let me show you this, guys. Let me walk into the other room real fast. I have to grab it. I currently can't get it open, but we will probably next week. We'll do this. You could, Matt Cool, you're absolutely right. You could just squish the tomato seeds into the soil, and you could do that as well. Some people do that. Some people, you actually could cut out the center and just throw that in. I was just being super lazy when it comes to the slice and just completely slicing it. And, sometimes, it's fun to just be completely lazy. Oh, I grabbed the wrong one. So a lot of you know that I like to make different tinctures and such like that. So this first one I grabbed, this is a goldenrod. This is a goldenrod tincture. This is to make a goldenrod medicine. So if you guys see in there, that's moonshine and goldenrod. But I'll show you that this is the medicine that I'm most excited about. So this is these are fresh peach. These were fresh peaches that I picked fresh peaches, and then this is vodka in here. But if you look at the date, I marked on the top of it whenever I can things, and I put them in here. So I have been brewing this. I have been fermenting these peaches in vodka for, you guys see that it says 9/19/11 for 10 years now. So I can't currently open this jar. I tried a little earlier today because I was going to give you guys a review on what this tasted like, but I think I'll do that next week. I'll get this open, and for next week's show, we'll do the peach, the local peach infused vodka after 10 years. So, and I this kind of stuff's important. The reason I think it's important to mention this kind of stuff is because there is a lot of things that have really strong shelf lives, and if you know what you're doing and you preserve things the right way, and you keep things in different ways, like I said, this isn't quite as old. So, and I've actually opened this a couple times because I actually during this time of year, I'll actually use this to make as like a cough medicine, especially if my allergies start getting bad. I'll take a shot of the goldenrod, inside. I think this is in moonshine. Yeah, this is goldenrod and moonshine. But this was a really, really crazy year. I had the worst hay fever this year, so that's part of the reason why I really keep the 2014 batch, is because this year I had really bad allergies, and so this will help with those allergies if I start getting allergies again. So every year I try to preserve a variety of different things. So sometimes it's not even as important just to preserve the seeds, but also aspects of the plant, and also make sure you document all of this important stuff down so you guys know so we know what we're doing. And so, like Dan in the past, like Dan has tried to grow some of the seeds that I've sent him in the past. I think he's had some luck with a couple of things I've had, but not so much with others. So I personally, Matt, keep everything, when it comes to my tinctures, I personally do all my tinctures in high proof alcohol. That's my preference, but there is other ways. Some people like to use vinegar. Some people will do, I've been contemplating using some of my kombucha and some of the other stuff and preserving such and that, but right now I'm the most comfortable preserving things like this. Now, of course, I'll do some canning, and then canning's, you're preserving it with the canning process. But when it comes to the herbal tinctures and the such that I'm using as medicine and such like that, I like to make my medicine alcohol-based medicine.
Moonshine on its own will fix your allergies. You drink enough of it.
Yeah, no, moonshine on its own for me would be really bad. High grain ethanol can sometimes give me like really bad headaches and can really mess with my congestion and such like that. That's why a lot of times if I can find real potato vodka, I prefer potato vodka because I don't have that issue. I don't have the issue with potato vodka, and I don't have the issue with tequila, because tequila is made with mezcal, which is just a yucca plant, and I don't have the problem with gin because gin's made from juniper berries. So, and again, I like all of those agave. Yeah, all of those. You're right. It is agave, not yucca. It's agave. Thank you, Matt. All of those are also just different types of medicines. Again, I'm a big advocate. I think alcohol was a medicine that we just started abusing. We just got to the point where we figured out that the medicine did some fun things with us, and we started to use it inappropriately. So
I think we've always understood alcohol. I think that cows understand alcohol. Lots of different animals understand fermentation of vegetables. They know that
modern humans don't understand alcohol. Yeah, you're right.
But cows know that you can get cows that live in a field that's got an apple tree in it, And the cows know, "No, don't eat all the apples now. No, leave them. Don't eat those. Wait, because it's a lot better. Wait a couple of weeks, and then we start eating them, and then it's a lot better, guys." And they've learned that. And because that's really a thing. Like I've heard that from multiple farmers, and I'm sure that Doc can probably back up that's true. So if the cows are doing that, right, to think that the monkeys aren't doing that is crazy. Of course, the monkeys are doing that, right? And if we evolved from those guys, then at what point did we lose that knowledge? We never lost that knowledge. Right. If we didn't evolve from those guys, okay, maybe there was a point at which we didn't know what alcohol was. But if evolution's got any truth to it, we always knew what alcohol was, always, before we learned to speak.
Well, what I was kind of more referring to is like in modern day people have forgotten the fact that alcohol is a medicine and not just something that you get drunk off of and, you know, make silly life decisions with. But I mean, it's funny because, you know,
Blame.
I think that's all the cows are doing. They're just using it to get drunk off and make silly life decisions. It's like, oh, let's go and just go and get Bernard to eat more apples than he normally does, and see if we can get him to act stupid like he did last week. That's what the cows do. Of course they do.
No, it probably also does something. It also, because of their two stomachs and such like that, it also probably helps with the level of digestion.
Yeah, I'm sure it's got some additional benefits, but they're in it for the lols mostly. You're telling me that they're not? They do it for the fun of it. They're not like it's not like some spiritual thing. They're all sitting there cross-legged under a tree, like meditating or something. They do it because they like it. The same reason that we do. They're like getting pissed.
Yeah, squirrels.
It could be for
squirrels. Love.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We don't know. We don't know that they don't eat that. That's not the fermented apple isn't the sacred sacrament for the holy cow.
Maybe.
I didn't know that squirrels were into it as well. Tell us about squirrels.
We had some corn mash go bad one year, and we fed it to the deers. Worst mistake ever.
But squirrels drink alcohol that they make themselves?
The squirrels love fermented pumpkin seeds.
Right.
They do. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, there's a lot of fermented stuff. I agree. There's a lot of fermented foods and there's a lot of fermented stuff that's got small amounts of alcohol in it that a lot of animals do partake in. I mean,
there are animals that understand fermentation as well. It's what I'm saying. It's one thing that animals find fermented stuff and eat it and think that that's nice. What I'm saying is that the cows understand about fermentation. They know that you've got to leave the apples for a bit.
I mean, like me and Lisa were up on the mountain today, and we were looking at some of the mushrooms, and a couple of the mushrooms, like one of the mushrooms that we were trying to identify was called I don't remember what the mushroom was called, but it mimics another type of mushroom, and it's a poisonous mushroom.
Is it red and spotty?
Well, it's red, but it's not spotty. So that's the difference. The red spotty one is a psychedelic. The red one that's not spotty is a medicine mushroom. And the purpose for it is if you eat enough of it, you will puke. Not in a bad way, but in a way. And so a lot of animals and so some animals might just eat enough of that if they need to, if they do need to puke and things of that sort. Because there are actually reasons for some animals that puking might actually be the only option that it does have if it eats something bad or if it has a stomach bug or something like that. So it is interesting that a lot of animals know exactly how much of a dose to eat. Probably because, they heard from their friend who ate a little bit more than that dose and their friend didn't come back anymore. So yeah, Matt, like dogs and grass, it is interesting, or cats and grass, how both of those dogs and cats know to eat grass, and that gives them something in their stomach, and that helps them puke and such as well. So.
Oh yeah, the wolfberry plant you showed in your stream, you said the seeds were poisonous?
Pokeweed, I think is what it was.
Yeah, you can actually make jelly out of it.
You can eat everything around the pokeberry. Everything around the pokeberry you can eat. it's the seed. It's only the little seed that is toxic inside
To
that.
adults, it's not toxic. It's just children that you really
Oh,
have
no,
to
no.
watch out for it.
It's still toxic. It's still toxic to It's still a to adults. It's just you don't want to let me show you guys for those that don't know what I'm talking about. So here is pokeberry. You just don't want to what'll happen is it's called pokeberry because if you eat too many and you crush the seeds, what will happen is it will ultimately give you the shits real fast.
Oh, I wouldn't eat that. Like anything that's like got like little bits sticking out of it like that. Like, nah, mate, no thanks.
And that's why it's so bad for children, is because it can dehydrate you really quickly. But as long as you don't eat the seed, and you just let the seed pass through, like you pop this in your mouth, and there's a little brown seed in there, and you just let that go through your digestion, it will come out. The juice inside this is actually really good for arthritis, and other things like that. But again, kids don't know to not crush. Kids don't know to not crush the seeds and things of that sort. So that's why it's just never a good idea to tell kids to eat it. But I mean, here's a good example. If you've never played with it before, it really does turn your hands that purple. And yeah, good luck actually getting, like, that's going to be on your hand. Your hands are going to be that purple until you wear down that first layer of skin. So you can dye, like, it makes a really good dye to dye things with. It's actually really fun. I used to dye my hair with it.
The Indians used to use it for dyes.
Yeah. Also, don't do stripes on your face. Like when I was a kid, we used to do stripes on our face, and you had them on, especially on your face. You had them longer than you probably wanted to, like a couple weeks. Easy, a couple of weeks. Oh, Mark, we were talking about the tree frogs. Here's one of the that's a big version. That's a big version of one of the little tree frogs that we have. Oh, you can't see that. Let me.
Okay.
There you go. That's a big version. If you look on DLive right now, that's a big version of one of the tree frogs that lives in our particular area. Now that guy's not very big. That's just a really good close-up picture. So. But no, there's a lot of cool stuff. There's a lot of cool plants that you can actually dye stuff very well with. So I do want to make sure that people are aware because I guess there was a problem this year of people misidentifying elderberries and pokeberries, which I'm not sure how you would do that, but I guess there's people that are. Anytime you're going to eat something in the bush, you should make sure that you or someone that you know positively identifies it, so that you're not out there eating, toxic or poisonous stuff. Lots of that.
And becoming one with nature, literally.
You're probably not gonna, if you're an adult, if you're a healthy adult and you live in North America, you're probably not gonna die. Maybe eating a mushroom, but pretty much eating anything else, you're not gonna die. You're just gonna have a bad stomach ache, or you're gonna trip, or something weird's gonna happen to you. But if you're making something that you're gonna share with others and children and such like that, that's why it's a good idea to make sure that you are with someone that you know that you can positively identify things. If you guys are not, let me bring up the website. I think I have it on my phone. Yeah, you can turn it off, Lisa. No, that's fine. I think it's PlantNet app. Yeah. So this. Let me transition into this. This right here, if you guys see the logo right here up in the top corner, this is the best plant identification app that I've came across. If you're not going to use a field guide and you're just going to use an app, this is the best one. This is the best one that I found. PlantNet. That is my favorite. That's my go-to if I don't know how to identify things. So, check out that one. There's a free version and a paid version. Again, that's based on how much you're going to use it and if you like it or not. But it's just something worth checking out. It's a good, if you don't have someone that you trust that can identify a plant or something for you, that is at least do something. If you don't have a field guide or if you don't know somebody, try to identify it that way.
In my opinion, I wouldn't, just because I'd identified something and I think, oh, that's that thing, and I've got this computer program on my iPhone that's telling me that, oh yeah, Mark, that's true, that's that thing. I wouldn't then trust myself to eat it.
Well, okay, so Matt asked a good question. Yeah, you take a picture of it, and then it gives you the probability of what it is compared to the probability of what it is of other things. So some stuff, like you'll take a picture and it'll give you a probability of 100% because there is nothing else it could possibly be. And sometimes you'll get a probability of 10 or 15%, and that means that it just doesn't know. And other people that have taken pictures similar and such like that, just they don't know well enough. So again, that's why if you're someone like me and's going to eat it anyways, because I'm just giving you this information because I'm assuming that more people are like me and you're just going to eat everything that you find out in the bush. At least identify it.
There's a few free books you can get out there then in PDF format and saved to phones. I have extra phones and devices, and one is it stores books.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like today, I'll give here's a good example. So me and Lisa are out looking at the mushrooms. One of the mushrooms that I tried to identify, that poisonous one that, that makes you throw up. So I ate a little bit of it, and I wasn't sure if it had a peppery taste or not. So I had Lisa eat a little bit of it, and she said she definitely tasted the peppery taste. And so the peppery taste was one of the telltale signs that it was one of the poisonous ones. So there's me who goes out in the woods, goes out in the bush, and tells Lisa to eat poison mushrooms. So
let me know if you trip.
Well, I mean, we have psilocybin here. We have the other. Who's more the fool or the follower? Or like Lisa just said, who's more the fool or the follower? I mean, it was great. She didn't second guess me. She just ate it. So, but again, it was a small amount. I wouldn't have had her eat an entire cap. We pretty much had just a little tiny bite. So, yeah, I've microdosed a lot. I've microdosed a lot of mushrooms. I will say, I actually, when it comes to poisonous plants, I can tell you with just a little tiny taste if the poisonous plant is, if that plant is poisonous or not, or if it's toxic or something you shouldn't be eating by just a small little taste. I cannot do that with mushrooms.
Doc, did it go down like this? Hey Lisa, tell me if this tastes like peppers.
No, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. I thought it had a hint of pepper taste, but I just couldn't tell. So, yeah, just quite couldn't tell. There was another one. We ate another mushroom because I was trying to figure out what it was. We ate another mushroom, and it was crazy. This mushroom had the texture. It felt like a pancake, and when you ate a little bit of it, it felt and tasted a little bit like pancake batter. It was crazy.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah, that was exactly it. That's probably the best way to. I don't know if it was a good or bad thing. The other mushroom that we ate, because we ate 4 mushrooms while we were out. The other mushroom that we ate, it tasted like I thought it tasted like a Crayola crayon.
Ooh.
Okay, sorry. Lisa's correcting me, and she says that I should be using the word nibble because we weren't eating them. We were just nibbling them. We were microdosing them. I like the microdosing. We were microdosing mushrooms.
One day you're going to go out there and you're going to eat a mushroom and you're just going to start wigging the fuck out.
No, probably not. I'll probably never eat enough of that because I don't really like mushrooms. And I like I said, there's out of all the stuff, I've eaten a lot of stuff out there. I've eaten a lot of stuff out there in the woods. Probably the craziest place I ever ate things was when I was in the rainforest and I was just eating random stuff that I found in the rainforest because I wanted to know what it tasted like.
Oh my god. You
Like,
know, I'm pretty sure there's people that say not to do that.
No, there's lots of people that say not to do that, and the guy that was with us came back and showed me when we went back to his house after, he told me some stuff that he saw that I was doing it, so we started talking, but he came back and he showed me, and it was the coolest thing ever. He showed me this book that had been passed down to their family on identifying plants and such in the rainforest, and there was certain things, there was red marks and such in that where someone got really ill or someone died because they ate certain things. It was cool.
Oh Lord.
So, because he was telling me about how different, he was telling me about how his great uncle, tried to eat a poison dart frog, and got really, really sick and died. But,
so, are they similar to poison toads? Could you not eat them if you just take the skin off of them, or no?
No, you can't eat poison dart frogs. Poison dart frogs. So they eat a particular. So poison dart frogs are poisonous because they eat fire ants. Yeah. That fire ant gets put through their entire system. So including their blood and everything they excrete. So the entire
they're immune to it. The dart frog is immune to it.
Okay.
But they create a poison.
Well, they extract that stuff out of they hyper extract and specialize that stuff inside them. So that's why you can
and squeeze it out when they're angry. It's just, you've got to upset a poison dart frog to get the stuff out of it, haven't you?
Yes, or cut them open. Yeah, poison dart.
It's all fun and games.
But that's why if you raise poison dart frogs yourself at home, you can handle them. Because they don't eat the fire ants or anything like that, so they're not actually poisonous. They're just pretty. It's the same thing with it's the same concept with flamingos. If you take the shrimp and that kind of stuff out of their diet, flamingos just turn white.
Yep.
That's crazy.
In zoos, they add dye to their food to make them pink.
Yep. A lot of times at the zoo I worked at, because they didn't want to use the dyes, they would just get the shells. They would get the shells out of like shrimp and prawns and such like that, and then they'd crush up the shells and put the shells in with their feed, and they would get a light pink because of that. So they wouldn't be dark pink, but they would have a light pink because there was enough of the pigments in their shells.
So you know that if you see the really pink flamingos, then they're definitely artificial.
Yes.
It's the light ones that might not be dyed.
Yeah. Unless you happen to live in an area like maybe if you're down in the Gulf of Mexico area where there's abundance of shrimp and it's easy for them to get, then those ones might be real. But if you're in the rest of the United States where there's not a big prawn shrimp population, then they're probably dyed.
There's a massive flamingo nest down by the Dead Sea, isn't there? It's like a big area down there where there's like an area that is miles and miles and miles from any predator. Nothing can get across the desert or bother to get there, and they will just nest in this one spot. It's really strange.
It's the aliens, bro.
I mean, flamingos are pretty crazy. They're pretty interesting animals, anyways. They don't like.
I think the most craziest animal out there is a jellyfish.
Jellyfish are pretty crazy, absolutely. Yes. So, yeah, jellyfish definitely fall into the category of crazy. So, Safe3333, thanks for the follow. Let's see, anything else that we should talk about this evening? Anything else out there in the that anybody thinks is important? Anything else?
A new Minecraft snapshot came out.
Yeah, that
Minecraft 2 didn't come out. Despite
No.
being informed by Dr. Firefly that it
No,
happened.
I actually
No, I didn't.
Minecraft
I
too.
didn't say it came out. I didn't say it came out. I said they're now starting to talk about wanting to release it.
I looked it up. Minecraft 2 was a project they had in like 2011.
Yeah, this
or
is
something like that.
No,
Like, I don't know
what I'm talking about is Microsoft just announced that that's a project that they're looking into. They announced this 2 days ago that it's
for a
new
joke.
project.
Mm-hmm.
No, Microsoft doesn't joke about stuff like that. Microsoft would totally try to launch a new Minecraft. I could totally see
Microsoft are not about to launch Minecraft 2. I do not
I'm
believe it.
telling
That
you,
is
they
that-
probably
no.
are because they used to
They're
have
not that
360
stupid.
Minecraft. Then they got rid of it, changed it over to Xbox
No,
One
they're
Minecraft.
that smart.
They're
Now
not that
Xbox One
stupid to
Minecraft
call
is
it Minecraft
called
2.
Minecraft.
Okay, now I agree with you there. They'll probably won't call it Minecraft 2 because that would be a ridiculous. That would be something.
21.
Yeah, they would give it. They would call it. They'd probably call it something else. But I think that the reason I'm saying this is because I think they want to try to compete with Fortnite and Roblox. Because what Roblox and Fortnite are starting to be able to do is something that I can see Microsoft wanting to convert Minecraft to be able to do, is to be able to import things from outside.
That'd be awesome.
And Microsoft being able to make money off of them, people being able to import things from the outside world. And I don't think that that's possible right now with the way that Minecraft is set up. So I think what they'll do is they'll do some type of thing. I mean, look at all the spin-offs that they've already done, Minecraft Dungeons and Minecraft Stories.
They're all just completely different games, though.
No, I know,
Yes.
but they're still using the term Minecraft.
Minecraft Dungeons is low-key fun.
Like I said, Minecraft 2 would probably not be anything like current Minecraft. It would probably have a completely different play experience. Because I also think Microsoft's smart enough that they wouldn't want to kill Minecraft. They would like it if they could have multiple games that they can convince people to buy multiple games. It's the whole
Just
thing.
different variants.
Yeah,
You can't continue to sell Minecraft 1 if you're also selling Minecraft 2. That wouldn't make any sense. They're just not going to call it Minecraft 2. Like, Microsoft might be making a new game related to Minecraft, but I find it hard to believe that they'd call it Minecraft 2.
I mean, it's the thing is, the thing with GTA is, GTA Online. I think that they're gonna milk that as long as they can, even if when they release, the new versions of GTA, the single player game. I think they're still going to milk the other ones because it's too much of a cash cow for them.
You don't kill your cash cow.
Yeah, because I think, let's see. Yeah, it's in the top. It's in the top 10 of GTA 5 is in the top 10 of one of the most profitable games that came out. So.
Well, the reason that is because of shark cards. I mean, you drop $100 in that game, you can go buy a yacht.
Well, it's probably also because it came out with multiple. I mean, I've bought 3 copies of the game myself because I bought one for the computer and I bought one for PS3 and I bought one for PS4, and I probably won't buy one for PS5, but I could totally see that being. I totally could see that being done. Somebody doing that.
He said somebody doing that. His wife's in the room right now. That's what it is.
No, I am interesting though. This does say the most profitable game of all times is Pac-Man.
Wait, Pac-Man?
Yep, Pac-Man is the most profitable game of all times.
It's got
That
most.
don't
I
make no
can believe
sense.
there's no. I can believe that what I'm looking at there.
Yeah.
Space Invaders would be number 2. Yeah. Hmm.
Okay, guys. Let's see. Anything else that you guys think? There was something I did want to talk about today that I saw out there in the world that was interesting. Trying to remember what that is. It'll give me a second, and I'll remember, and we'll. Oh, if you guys if those of you that aren't into crypto, and if you have a little extra money, as we've hit this bottom, we're starting a little general curve back up. So this would be we're still in a pretty okay time to get into crypto. So if you're interested in thinking of getting into crypto, this might be a good time to get back in. If you are and you don't know how, let me know, and I can help connect you into the easiest ways and the easiest wallets and all the different ways to do that. And you just gotta tell me if you want to day trade or if you want to hold for a long period of time, or if you just are wanting to just dabble.
So what do you think's going to happen with the debt ceiling?
Nothing.
You don't think they'll default us?
What does that mean?
Basically no more money. Like they don't extend it.
Oh yeah, so
Who-
you totally yeah, they're totally
who's
gonna say
they?
there's no more money.
Who's they?
Mitch McConnell was talking about it.
You mean the people that decide when to create new money out of thin air? They decide something. So it's completely just down to whether or not they decide something, and anything that happens in the world in terms of geopolitics is irrelevant. It's just whether or not some people decide something, right?
Yeah,
Sure.
no, I don't. They're just all they're doing is this is just more control. It's just showing you that they're really just letting you know who's in charge of the money. This is just another reminder that that they're in charge of the money. Oh, well, we're gonna default. We're not gonna pay ourselves, the money that we owe to ourselves and to the other stuff and to everybody
It doesn't
else.
mean anything. The whole thing's
Yeah.
nonsense. Like, the whole thing's bullshit. And the more they the more they draw attention to financial systems, that's good for us, because COVID is just a distraction from the fact that money is debt, and it's all just a diversion from that. And sooner or later, everybody's going to notice that.
Yeah.
So what does a default mean? What does it really mean? Like, who are they actually? What does that mean? Because it would make sense if money was that the money that the government spent on services was the money that they collected out of tax, but it doesn't even work like that. The concept of the coffers is what we call it in the UK, and it doesn't work like that. There's not like a income outcome, because they just create money out of nothing when they want to anyway. Governments do it, but also private banks do it.
Matt, cool. Thanks for sticking around on Twitch. It was awesome having you around. Again, every Thursday we do the show. I also do random shows from time to time on my farm. So feel free to if you're interested. And if you are a Discord user, you are welcome to join. You're welcome to join the Discord. There's the Discord, and we talk about lots of stuff on there. I also have links to the farming stuff and a bunch of other stuff. But yeah, thanks for sticking around. No, I think right now though, going back to the whole financial talk, I do think that they are trying to go after crypto right now. They want to change the tax. They want to change the way it's taxed. I mean, there's a handful of people in Congress right now that wanna ban crypto, that want to make it so you can't own it, to tell people they're not allowed to own it and that they're not allowed to exchange it. But I
That'll
think
never happen.
I think they missed their window with that now, especially since there's ways that they can do. Dan, I am not that familiar with Quartal. I've heard of it, but I'm not that familiar with it, so I can't really speak.
What's Quartal?
I don't know enough about it to be able to speak. To be able to speak. I still trying to. If it's the one I think it is, it's kind of like they're trying to make a hybrid of a friendly, usable crypto for the average person. So
Crypto's going to be one of the things that exposes to the normies the evils of the New World Order, because the New World Order know that they need to control crypto. They can't let us have a free, non-traceable crypto that they don't control, and so they're trying to police it and regulate it. But yet there are already some countries that have decided to make cryptocurrencies part of their country. And so when a normie looks at that and they say, wait a minute, this entire country think that it's okay to do it, why is my country saying that it's evil and that if I use crypto that means that I'm a paedophile? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, normies are going to notice that. Mm-hmm. It's a massive elephant in the living room for the New World Order.
Yeah, and the problem I have though, as much as I love crypto, the one problem I have right now is everyone's just throwing around this word decentralized coin or decentralized this or decentralized that. But just because you say something is decentralized, that doesn't actually mean that it is, and it doesn't actually mean it's a good thing. Like, there's a lot of bad things that are decentralized. Decentralized, like Antifa's decentralized. It's a decentralized organization, and they're not a good thing. I think that what we need to do is not let our governments, put new rules on this, because this is one of the few times that we can do a little bit of pushback, and we can tell them no and not participate in some of their things, and reward the companies that are trying to push things forward. Being able to buy and sell something crypto is awesome, especially if it doesn't get, especially like if we're not, they're not taxed the same way. Again, I'm not a big fan of taxes, so we need to make sure we all understand where I'm coming from.
Let's all be Amish.
Let's all be Amish.
Doc, you'll be our pastor. We'll start the Church of Jeb. Become one with nature.
Yeah. I mean, that is something that we could consider. I mean, I do have my own church. I actually am, a registered pastor.
That's awesome.
I've been ordained for 20 some years now. I'm actually working with a group of people down here. We're trying to figure out how to some of the large corporations are starting to do these vaccine mandates, and we're more concerned about not even the vaccine mandates, but where this is going to ultimately lead. And so I've been looking into, as the United States had set up things for the Native Americans, and as we have some other stuff set up for have we been setting up things for other things. I'm working on trying to figure out how to start like an organization, start like a foundation or something like that, so that we can, lack of better words, make a protected class, play their game against them.
I've been working on my party for a minute.
Well, there's a new party actually in the U.S. It's called the Patriot Party.
Yeah,
It's been spreading through the South like wildfire.
I'll be honest, like I'm at the point right now, and maybe we've not talked about this that much, but I'm at the point right now that we just need to let it burn.
You're not wrong. Patriot Party sure reminds me of the Nazi Party on how they do things.
I think we could let it burn, and what we could rebuild could be a lot better.
I've been working on a party for a while that could just legally gut them and give the power back to the people, and we don't have to be changing constitutions and all that bullshit. And we the people can erase what we don't want and put back what we want.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm not sure. I'm not sure with the amount of power that the institution has right now and the indoctrination that they've done with the kids, and the mindset that some of the lefty friends that I know have. If we can build something back that if we can rebuild something in this current structure, because the thing is we're not going to, like, if we lived in a world where we could get rid of our laws, but we don't ever get rid of laws. We hardly ever overturn laws. We just add more laws on top of those laws. And so
it happens, but right, not like it should.
At some particular point, and again, because I say we're going to, let it go and burn down, it doesn't mean that we even have to go into a minute of anarchy. It just means that once we form a new government, a new country, a new something like that, then next day or later that day, those are the new rules and those are how it's going to be. I don't think any of this has to be, the South, we were able to do it in the 1860s during the Civil War at one particular point.
The South will rise again. Sorry, I had to say that. Shit's a given.
I mean, just like during, 1700s, at one particular point, we were no longer under the rule of, was it King Richard or King Edward? I don't remember which king it was at the time. King Richard, I think. We were no longer under the rule of the king, and
King Dick.
So.
But, well, that's where, like, with my party, it's not necessarily their system, but using the tools that are there to where they can't be like, oh my God, these people are terrorists. They want to overthrow us. No. The people do.
Well, I mean, I do think it's funny the people that are upset with the people like, oh, those people are terrorists and they want to overthrow us. Yeah, that's American. That's what Americans do. That's what we've done at least 2 times in our history. We like to overthrow
like
people.
500 years.
Though I'm
going to add, you gotta go.
I will add, this is something else I was having, and I'm curious what you guys' opinion of this. It'll be interesting. I actually want to know Mark's opinion of this as well. So, we're having this big immigration problem, and everybody wants to help all of these immigrants. So I'm thinking now, if we're gonna help all these immigrants, like, great, let's help them all, and let's just make their country now a new state, like make it like Puerto Rico. Like,
what do they need?
The Haitian wants to come here, great. Haiti's now part of the United States, and we're gonna help you out.
Yeah, right.
And your president's now the governor.
Do we have more Haitian citizens than Haiti? Because if so, what does your country need, and we can send them back home?
Yep, we're gonna send the people back home. You're now an American. You get the benefits of being the American, and we also get all of your tax money, and we get to exploit your country, because that's what.
Welcome to the 51st state.
Yep. And we should just sweep through Central America like that. You want to come to America and don't want to stay in your country? Why? Oh, okay. Well, instead of us spending money here in, LA, let's just and if we have to, let's just buy the country. Like, we'll just buy Haiti. Okay, we own Haiti now. We bought it. And that sounds crazy to people, but that's how we got a lot of stuff.
That's how America was built.
Yeah, we just bought,
sold it to us. The whole term Indian giver came
It
from
was
them
either
wanting it
we bought it or we took it. Take your pick.
No, we bought it. We didn't ever, there wasn't anything in this country that we took. We never took anything. We bought everything. There's no part of America that we didn't buy. Now, sometimes we destroyed them and then bought it at a discounted price, but we bought it.
Well,
bought it off somebody that said that they could sell it.
Yep, we bought it off
The thing is that there was somebody else at the time that said, "Wait a minute, he didn't actually really have like the right to sell you that because like
we didn't give a
well."
fuck."
Yeah,
we still bought it. We bought Russia.
Yeah,
we bought
bro.
Alaska off of Russia. We bought California, Nevada, Texas off of Mexico. We bought the Louisiana Purchase off the French.
Well, New Mexico we actually got from the Mexican little war thing that happened in Texas.
And we still paid for it. We gave them some money after we beat them. So that's the one thing that I have to say, that the one thing that bothers me about a lot of the folks that are anti-colonists. And I get it. I could see how, how you could not like the colonists, but name me other countries when they took over countries, they bought the part that they took over. Like, we're either idiots or, not as bad off as people think it is. I mean, look, the fact that Native Americans still exist means that we're not as bad as other countries out there.
Dude, nobody invaded countries like you did in the last 400 years. Everywhere else had already been invaded.
Because you're cool
you did it in like modern civilized times.
Because we're modern day Spartans.
Because what we should have done is, because that's the part where this is how I know that countries aren't entirely real. Because what we should have done is, if we were in Afghanistan for 20 years, we should have just said, fuck it. Afghanistan is part of the United States now. We want your oil.
We could have Xanaxed it.
We want your
clothes, your boots, and your motorcycle.
Yeah, we want your Xanax, or not your Xanax. We want your poppies. We want your poppies. We want your oil. Here's our TV. Here's the internet.
The answer to your question, of course, Doc, is until we get the replicator, I don't want any countries joining together or breaking up. Thank you very much. I want all the current countries to stay as they are, because the people that are pushing the New World Order are trying to make one big country.
No, you're right.
They want to join America into one country, they want to join Africa into one country, and Europe into one country, and then join them all and Asia, and then join them all together.
I'm gonna be honest, I sort of support that though.
I do too, and Gene Roddenberry was right in his prediction of how that would pan out, probably. But until we've got the replicator, it will be too much power for any human organization to have to rule the world. Yeah. When we've got the replicator, it'll be fine. It won't make any difference if somebody thinks they're in charge of the world, because they're not, because they haven't got any power. But until they admit that they've got the tech that they've probably already got, we don't want to have any new joining of countries together.
Even if we don't get the replicator, if we just get rid of the scarcity scam, once we realize there's not scarcity, then we could do what you're saying. Because like we were just talking about it, seeds are pretty amazing replicators. They just have like a time lag,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Hillary did a lot to try to destabilize Haiti, didn't she? So I think that's
Hillary was not a fan of Haiti.
Yeah, I think that's been an agenda for a while, is to try to bring Haiti into the control of America. I think that's a serious thing that they'd like to do. They want to get the people of Haiti on board with it. They're trying to get the people of Haiti on board with it.
But there's a lot of Haitians right now at the Mexican-Texas border. Like, somebody brought those Haitians over.
Yeah, they didn't just fucking walk.
Otherwise, they would have been in Florida, because it's a whole lot closer.
Yeah. Someone had to drop them bitches there. I'm sorry, but yeah.
Or they're not Haitians.
That could be it too.
And they're lying about where they're from.
That many people lying about where they're from, though.
I don't know. I can't. I'm just, we're just playing. I'm just.
Yeah, I know. But but I mean, some of them, sure, maybe not Haitian, maybe lying. They could be from the Middle East. They could be from anywhere. Just because you're a different color doesn't mean you're Haitian. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Like I could say I'm French, but am I from France? Was I born? No, but I mean, who the fuck are you to tell me otherwise?
Well,
And also, it. Sorry.
I'm going to end the stream, but we can all keep talking about this. If anybody out there that's watching right now wants to keep joining in on this conversation, you are more than welcome to jump on the Discord. It's !Discord, and jump on the Discord and come in and have conversations with us. The reason I'm getting this off is because we're starting to dance into the land of not necessarily talking about seeds. And while I love having these great conversations, and we have lots of them on our Discord, it isn't exactly what our subject matter is about this evening. So I want to thank everybody. I want to thank everybody that joined in and had all the great conversations today. Everybody that donated lemons and diamonds and ice creams and all that kind of stuff. I want to thank everyone who visits the site. Again, if anybody out there uses Amazon, just before erase the www, put in smile, put in my nonprofit, and a small portion of that helps me out, and it really is super helpful. We did get, for those that are wondering, the last quarter, I did get my check from the last quarter for the nonprofit, and our check was for $40, so that was awesome. That's super helpful. It opens up us being able to do more outreach programs and such like that with that. So that's a good way to help. And if anybody is interested in helping me other ways, Lisa has an Etsy store that we're going to be putting some stuff up on. It's Mavis Henx on the Etsy store. Other than that, I want to thank you guys all for joining. Time to time we do our show. Time to time I do Let's Feed the Chickens. Every Thursday night we do this show. Golf has a show. Mock has a website if they want to post both of those links in the chats so you guys can check out
1 second.
Golf show and Mock's websites. And if you're watching this on Twitch, thank you. I do most of my stuff on DLive, but you can also watch this on Twitch because now I have a little bit of a following on Twitch. There is Golf's DLive. And
here it comes.
And Mock is coming back, and he will be posting his link to his website in the chat as well. And there is Mock's
social
website.
media to call home.
Lots of stuff on their way. And to everyone else, thank you guys a lot. I look forward to seeing you guys later this week. And again, you want to continue on the conversation, jump onto the Discord, and we'll be having the conversation there. Other than that, guys, I will leave you guys with some more music and that kind of stuff. And you guys have yourself a good evening. Guys, I'll pop back up into the channel in just a second.